Greetings, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I have drifted into the underworld. The Star Wars underworld. I have a bad feeling about this.
Here we go. We must go to the lower levels. The underworld.
You've taken your first step into a larger world.
You're after something.
Ben.
Since I've started the underworld, I've met so many great friends.
Chris.
I grew up in the 1990s, and mall packaging is nostalgic for me.
Dominic.
What I love most about Star Wars is that it's fun and it's all-round good times.
So, this is where the fun begins.
May the Force be with us.
This thing really moves!
Whoa! I like this!
I can't believe you came all this way to see me.
Why am I not in the intro? I gotta come up with a snappy line.
Hello, Star Wars fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Wars Underworld podcast. We're Source. That's right. We are Source.
We are Source. We are Source for
we
news.
We are your source for the latest breaking Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion each and every week. And this week on the show, we're going to be going deep. We're going deep. Okay.
Chris, are you okay? Are you okay? Do you want me to take over? Are you
No,
good?
I'm okay. I didn't read this before I read it. We'll be going deep on the newly revealed open world game Star Wars Outlaws that was just revealed.
Chris Burgundy here doing the intro.
I know. I should have. Usually I read it before I read it, but this time I didn't.
Seekell.
Also,
question mark on the teleprompter.
Also, the Star Wars movie schedule just got another shakeup, and it appears we'll be getting not one but two movies in 2026. I love how that's phrased to make it sound like a good thing. This is not the only time someone's messaged me and said, "Hey, did you hear the news? We're getting another Star Wars movie in 2026." And I'm like, yes. You phrase that as concerning, but yes. We'll break down what this could mean for the future of the saga. Tune in for that and much more. As you've probably already ascertained, my name is Chris. Joining me is my good friend, Mr. Dominic Jones.
Hello, Chris. Hello, Ben. Hello, everybody. Yeah, good to be back. Good to be back. Although that intro has me questioning how things go when I'm not here.
Oh my God.
Although strictly speaking, I guess, Chris, you weren't here last week either. So, Ben,
no, I was not.
Ben, I guess it's all on you. You have to carry the show from here on out, seeing as it's impossible.
Apparently.
Well, seeing as it's impossible to get all of me, Chris, and Hannah all on the same show these days. But yeah, what an exciting week. That Star Wars Outlaws trailer came out of nowhere. I was getting used to checking social media and seeing nothing but Indiana Jones content. I thought that's all I was going to see was stuff about my cousin Indy. But instead, one day, bam, out of nowhere, new video game trailer, announcement, title, gameplay footage. Very, very exciting. I'm thrilled to talk about it. And yeah, it's going to be a great show.
Awesome. Also joining us, it's Ben Hart, the Star Wars guy.
How's it going, everybody? And yeah, I'm very disappointed. Just so disappointed. This is going to be the week we were going to talk about Indiana Jones, guys. This is going to be the week. No Star Wars news, just Indiana Jones, and here we are with just a bunch of more Star Wars news. I guess we'll go back to talking about some Star Wars. So yeah, we got some exciting things that came out of freaking nowhere. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to break it all down.
Are we gonna review Dial of Destiny on this show? Like, I feel like that's
should.
I feel like that's the standard like Star Wars podcast thing to do. Is any Lucasfilm project, especially Indiana Jones, you're supposed to review. But I'll tell you, if we do that, then you guys can expect that to be followed by 8 weeks of Willow breakdowns, because we're just gonna go back. It'll be the Willow series strikes back.
Sign me up. Sign me up.
I'll be on that.
I'm a newfound Willow fan here, so no arguments from me.
This is the Lucasfilm underworld, so you know.
I mean, StarWars.com sometimes feels like a Lucasfilm website more than a Star Wars website.
For sure.
They make Indiana Jones announcements over there like it's like they're the same thing, like they're one and the same.
Yeah.
But anyways, so be it.
I just love that there's this understanding that like everything that everyone that likes Star Wars also likes everything else that came out of George Lucas's brain. Like that's just how it works. So like everyone it's just an understanding. If you're an Indiana Jones fan, you're a Star Wars fan. If you're a Willow fan, you're a Star Wars fan. So yeah, we're all one happy big family. Yay.
I
And we
actually
all especially love Radioland Murders. That is the classic.
I was gonna say I actually really enjoyed Howard the Duck. That was an entertaining, very bizarre, entertaining movie.
Yeah, and I think you can combine all these different features that Lucasfilm has made and make a cohesive actual galaxy. Like, oh, what's to say there isn't a Willow planet? And what's to say there isn't Earth in Star Wars Galaxy and Unknown Regions? Who knows? It all could be canon. Who knows? It just hasn't been that way yet.
What's to say that
connected.
Indiana Jones is not the dreams of Han Solo when he was in Carbonite?
Exactly.
That other voice that you hear, that face that you see from the YouTube channel Star Raptor, it's Chris.
Hello, Ben. Hello, Chris. Hello, Dominic. Thanks for having me on once again. And it's time to talk about some Star Wars video games. Everybody get hyped, because I certainly am. I've been waiting for this announcement of a game that's an open world Star Wars game for basically my entire life, because this is the first one we're ever getting. So I can't wait to dive in deep on that. So much to go through. A gameplay and a trailer with the cinematics all in the same week. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot, and we will get to it in a moment. But first, want to acknowledge Hannah's not here this week, so hopefully she will be back with us next week. And of course, you can always check out her stuff on the Raeside. But before we do the plugs, Voyager in the chat has this comment: will Chris, and Dominic be giving their thoughts on the Ahsoka Empire promo because they weren't here last week? So that 30-second Ahsoka teaser that came out that also confirmed that the series is coming out on August 23rd, aka the day after my birthday. So best birthday present ever. But Star Raptor, why don't you start us off? What did you think of that Ahsoka promo last week?
Yeah, I think it's pretty great that us that were those of us that weren't actually in the room for the Ahsoka showcase and celebration were able to finally see Sabine wielding the green lightsaber. And I watched that trailer like in my car at one point, in the middle, so I wasn't actually able to see it too clearly. But then I went home, I was like, how did I miss her having a green lightsaber for a flash of a second? So it's a good thing I watched that thing again, because that was pretty awesome to see that. Like, wait, what's going on here? Like, we know she trained with the dark saber, but she's also proficient with a lightsaber as well, as we've seen in one of those episodes of Rebels. So that was great. And just overall, I said this on my podcast, Outer Rim Transmission, it feels like Ahsoka is getting a lot more promotion than the other series have gotten. And I feel like the promotion for Ahsoka so far has been way better than, let's say, Mandalorian season 3 and anything else before it. It almost feels like more of a lead up to a movie, because we're getting these very substantial articles in Empire and whatnot that are shedding light on the backstory of these really interesting characters that, like the Shin character and the master there, and Baylor or Balon, whatever it is. So it's really neat getting their backstories, getting pictures of Inquisitors, and I just feel like we never got that amount of information for the run-up of Mando. So I'm really soaking it in. It's definitely doing its job, which is to hype the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, what do you think?
So I'm pretty. This is the celebration trailer, right? It's just called something different. It's
got elements from the
different.
celebration trailer, but it's still missing, because the celebration trailer was more like the main trailer plus a few things from this, plus some stuff that still hasn't come out. Namely, Thrawn's face is kind of the big one that still hasn't been revealed. That was shown at Celebration, and there were a couple other shots in the Celebration trailer like that really were live action Rebels. Like it was Sabine on a speeder bike going down one of those highways on Lothal. I was like, oh, that's Spark of Rebellion. That's Spark of Rebellion.
So was there anything in this that wasn't in the Celebration trailer?
Not to my recollection.
So that's kind of what I mean to say is, like, we've seen this before if we either attended Celebration or saw bootlegs, but obviously it's in much better quality, like the thing you were saying, Chris, about the lightsaber that you can see more clearly now. So yeah, my reaction to this is obviously just the reaction that I had to the Celebration trailer upon seeing bootlegs. It looks amazing. It's great. I'm super stoked for the show.
Yeah, it looks terrific, and the pictures that came out in Empire magazine as well.
Those are
were
cool. Those are new and cool.
spectacular.
Yeah, I
those
agree with
those really sell the series, and like you were saying, Star Raptor, like it feels, this series feels big. It feels like an event in a way that that not all series do. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi kind of had this energy going into it. There were moments when I feel like Mando season 3 had it. Andor, I don't think had it. Andor kind of was more of a surprise. Book of Boba certainly didn't have it going into it. And Bad Batch is always kind of its own thing off to the side. But this does feel like a momentous occasion, and the hype for it is real. Like, I remember the lead up to Celebration. I think I've said this before, but the lead up to Celebration, that Ahsoka panel was the hottest ticket. That was the biggest one, even bigger than the showcase. I think. I feel like there were more people that, if they had to choose between one or the other, wanted an in-depth look at Ahsoka rather than an overview of everything. And I got to see I was in one of the satellite rooms for the Ahsoka panel, and it did not disappoint. It was really terrific. But those are some thoughts since we missed last week, and now we can dive into this week after we plug some stuff.
That's right. So definitely, if you're watching us on YouTube, punch that subscribe button, Chewy. And if you are listening to us on your favorite podcast app, make sure that you subscribe to the podcast feed over there. And if it lets you leave a review, that'd be freaking awesome as well. Back over on YouTube, you can support us by sending us super chats. We already got some in the queue now. We'll get to that later in the show, and we have a section where we just interact with the chat and super chats for a bit. And another way that you can interact with us if you're watching this or listening to this not live, but you still want to interact, is by going over to the Star Wars Underworld Network Discord server, and that's where you can leave comments for us to read. So we love getting prompts from over there. So definitely check that out. And there's a lot of other great benefits to the Discord server too, like having a community to discuss things throughout the week and having regular movie and game nights with the Star Wars Underworld community, which is super, super fun. You can also become a channel member as well, which is something everybody can do, even if you don't watch live. And that's a way that you can support us. And then make sure you check out all the other shows on the Star Wars Underworld Network. We've got Ion Cannon, which is on this channel, which is also going to be coming to you from a special place soon. Super excited. And then we've got the Raeside over on Hannah's channel, RAE side, on Tales from Beyond the Galaxy. So make sure you check all of those out. And do we have any hot off the press or IPC or any other things to plug? Or
no, I'll tell you, hot off the press has been basically on pause for the last 2 months while I get all sorts of other things sorted out.
Yes.
But once things are settled, we will. For those of you that don't know, I'm moving tomorrow, and that's why there will be a new studio for on my end, and that's why there has been no other content from me other than this. Work plus move equals nothing. Nothing else. No time. So but I once we're settled into the new place, very much intend to get back to writing with. I have several sort of things in various stages of outlines that were started before pauses were hit. So subscribe to Hot Off the Press. Why not? I can't even remember what the URL is, but it's great. Just Google it. It's on Substack. All right.
It just says Hot Off the Press, so I don't know. I guess you just Google Hot Off the Press
and it'll come up. All right. Let's get into things. And we start, of course, with Star Wars Outlaws, the new video game coming from Lucasfilm Games, Massive Entertainment, and Ubisoft. So this was revealed on Monday, I believe. No, Sunday. Was this revealed as part of a thing? Was this revealed as part of a thing? Okay.
Yeah, Xbox Showcase. They have it every year. This is like taking place of what used to be E3 like the first or second week of June. They have a lot of gaming news. They had a PlayStation showcase like a week before. Then we had Summer Games Fest, which is like a catch-all, all platforms, and this was for Xbox specifically.
Nice. Sounds terrific. So games coming out in 2024 on Xbox Series XS, PlayStation 5, and PC. It's set between the events of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, and players will play as K-Vess. I'm reading from StarWars.com here. A clever scoundrel in the galactic underworld. Hey, that sounds good. In Star Wars Outlaws, Kay is looking to attempt one of the biggest heists the Outer Rim has ever seen, all in an effort to start a new life. So we've got the key art up on the screen. There's Kay. She's the main character. There's this commando droid dude who is kind of I'm gonna say like her kind of sidekick through this, and her cuddly little friend there who has a name as well that I can't think of. I'm sure one of you could. Nix. Thank you. I kept wanting to say Nubs, but that's the character from Young
But
Jedi
it's
Adventure.
funny you say that because D. Bradley Baker, who voices Nubs, also voices Nix.
Yeah, which was really throwing me for a loop. But they released a trailer and 10 minutes of gameplay. Let's get some sort of initial reactions to. Let's start with the trailer and just the announcement itself. And Star Raptor, since you are our senior tie-in materials correspondent, we'll throw it to you first. What is your reaction to Star Wars Outlaws?
All right, well, I got to take us back for a second because it was Sunday. I was working. I knew that there was going to be some kind of news. I didn't know if it was going to be Star Wars or not. I had a feeling that this week we would get Star Wars gaming news with Survivor behind us. So then I did get a notification from Lucasfilm or StarWars.com or whatever saying, oh, there's a new game trailer. So I was like, I'm going to have constraint as a Star Wars fan. I'm not going to watch this trailer until I'm back home on my 4K 65-inch TV. So that's what I did. And I enjoyed that thing like it was watching a Star Wars movie trailer because I was wowed by this. This is a really, like, just looking at the cinematic trailer and just the story in general. I love the idea that so far in the games lineup, the games are really starting to kind of hit their stride. People have been complaining, rightly so, that, the games have not been like they were in the heyday of Lucasfilm, back in the early 2000s like this. But I think we're finally getting there. Start off with Battlefront 2. We had, we basically have a lot of bases covered at this point. We have the multiplayer shooter where you can be Jedi, whatever, ships and all in Battlefront. Then we have the fantastic franchise of playing a Jedi. Everybody's power fantasy of playing a Jedi. If you're in Star Wars, lightsabers, Jedi, you got to have a game like that. And Survivor and Fallen Order are amazing. You also have Squadrons for those that like the old X-Wing games and dogfighting. But now we finally have a game where you're playing a smuggler, a scoundrel, a character that's like us. Like we're not Force sensitive, Raja. I wish we were. But this is more of a character that we all can relate to. Just somebody that's just trying to get by. You're in this area of the Star Wars galaxy where anything goes. And I specifically love that they're playing in the timeline of between Empire and Return of the Jedi. I absolutely love the game. Shadows of the Empire was one of the first things I remember from Star Wars. So it's always had a special place in my heart. So this is, to me, I mean, no one said it, but this is to me like the spiritual successor of what could be Shadows of the Empire, because we're dealing with Han and Carbonate as we clearly see that we're dealing with the crime syndicates, we're dealing with the Hutts, we're dealing with the Empire, and we're also dealing with just the idea of how this person, this everyday Joe, is trying to survive and make her way in the galaxy. And the idea that this is the first open world Star Wars game, the idea that, yes, we've had sort of games like that in the past with Star Wars Galaxies and Star Wars The Old Republic, but those games were more RPGs. They were more like, okay, there's not as much of a good story, where this game is centrally focused on Kay Vess and her pals ND5, the commando droid, and Nix, and there's going to be that through line of a very compelling story, but you're also going to have the absolute freedom to wander around in a town, seeing people go by on soup bikes. Like the world feels absolutely alive. I mean, I'm kind of referencing the gameplay we got as well, because I'll let you guys talk a little bit because I could go on for a while.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, I guess. But I was shocked that we got so much right out of the gate. It's like, okay, they hit us with the cinematic trailer on Sunday. And then they're like, oh, that's not all. Come back tomorrow. And they gave us a 10-minute gameplay trailer. There hasn't been, to my recollection, any Star Wars game promotion where they put out the trailer for a story and then they put out gameplay. When they first showed us Fallen Order, they showed us that trailer for story in Celebration, and we had to wait like 3 or 4 months for gameplay on bated breath. And here we're like getting fed with all this, Outlaws content right out the gate. And we're getting behind the scenes stuff from Ubisoft about the actress. I believe her name is Tomberta or something, to that degree. Hopefully I'm not butchering that, but we have so much content already, and we're getting this in 2024. I gotta imagine this is probably coming out maybe the same time frame that Survivor came out, maybe earlier in 2024, from all the stuff they've shown us so far. But yes, with all that being said, I'm incredibly excited, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about what your impressions are.
Yeah. It looks really terrific. It was really an exciting way to end the weekend. Ben, over to you. Your thoughts on Star Wars Outlaws.
Yeah, I also, I mean, I saw the trailer and I was like, obviously it looks amazing. Everything from the score to, the characters to the world, everything looks amazing. But, part of me was watching the trailer going like, I've seen a lot of amazing game trailers going back to the old Old Republic trailers, which are some of the most amazing, epic Star Wars or any game trailer period. Like, they're just incredible. Didn't really reflect the gameplay though of the game. No diss on the game because it's a good game, but it, very different, very much cinematic quality as opposed to the game. And I was like, okay, is it like, this looks really good, but what is the gameplay going to be like? And watching that gameplay, I was like blown away. Like, this looks about what the trailer gave us yesterday, and also so much more. And it's really, really impressive, and it appears because like he started saying the first open world game. I'm like, come on, what about Star Wars Galaxies? What about we just got Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga? It's kind of open world, right? And like, yes, technically yes. But this appears to be just so much more to it. This looks like, the quality of like Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, but on just a much larger scale. And I love the whole idea of like, kind of the little bit of RPG elements of just like giving you these details and giving you options on what you can say and how that might change the outcome of your path, or how that might determine where you go next. Really cool stuff. So now, like, again, I'm stuck going, oh man, maybe I should. Do I need to sacrifice Comic-Con next year to buy a PS5? What am I gonna do? Because this looks really good and I want to play it. But yeah, it looks. I mean, it looks fantastic, and I think it's exactly what a lot of people have been wanting for a very long time. Especially, and I'll echo what you said. The time period is really an interesting place to put it, because if you're going to deal with the Empire, you could just do it post, pre A New Hope, or even post Return of the Jedi. But they're doing this little area that really has not been explored very much. I think is very interesting.
Yeah. Chris, what about you? Your thoughts?
Yeah. We've been hearing about this for so long. Like, I don't know how many years it's been since we first heard, an open world Star Wars game is going to happen. So it's, again, I always have this issue with Star Wars projects where like, I don't want to believe it when I see it. Like, I feel like Star Wars has kind of ruined my trust a little bit. So half of me is like, is this going to be finished? When's this going to be finished? Is this going to happen in 10 years? Like, but everything's promising. Like, there's footage, there's gameplay, there's an expected kind of rough time, I think, when it's coming out or something. So like, that's all good. Yeah, it looks like everything that you kind of would expect it to be. I mean, it's definitely not Star Wars Galaxies and like the modern era. It's not quite like that. It still looks like it's kind of has more of kind of an RPG element to it than just completely like, like a open world, like MMO type thing that like Galaxies was. But regardless of that, it looks really fun, and it looks like it expands on some of the parts of like, say, Jedi Fallen Order that people really like, or Jedi Survivor as well, that people really like the open world aspects of that. It looks like that to the next level. That is like skirting
Mhm.
on that, and then this is like the actual thing, and
Mhm.
that I think is really good. It's going to satisfy all the people that's the part that they like the most about the Jedi series, and they want a game that's all that. So I think that's really important. And for me, that's, I'm really excited because I really like those open world aspects of games like that. So it looks fantastic. The story looks compelling. The characters look very interesting. I think it's really fascinating that they chose to put it in like a very, what would have a few years ago been a very obvious timeline, but now isn't, with there being so much in the Dark Times and the sequel era and the High Republic, and all these things. So I think it's good to have something for the fans that really do resonate with that like original trilogy timeline. Like I think it's smart to have something for them when everything's moving away from that. So yeah, it's all positive things. I don't have anything negative to say about this at all. It just looks all great.
Yeah, I had the same reaction I had watching this trailer to watching the Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor trailers, which is because I don't really play video games. My reaction is, man, I wish this was a movie or an animated series.
Yeah.
Because then I would be really hyped for it. As it stands now, I think it looks terrific, and I do very much look forward to watching a 8-12 hour cutscene montage mashup with a little bit of gameplay to string you along and put the pieces together next year. But yeah, I think it looks terrific. It's got that like gritty underworld feel that you want from something called Star Wars Outlaws, but it maintains the kind of wonder of Star Wars. And when Star Wars goes gritty, it sometimes loses that sense of wonder because it gets caught up in kind of the realism, quote unquote, of things. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. But I do love the wonder element of Star Wars. And I feel like this main character, Kay, I feel like she has that a lot. And just the visuals in the trailer, like you get a lot of looks at a lot of different planets, and some of them are grim and dark, but others are colorful and wondrous. And I feel like this game is tapping into a lot of the best elements of other Star Wars and kind of mixing in some new stuff to create something really new and really exciting. And honestly, I'm more intrigued and more tempted to get into video games from the look at this one than the Fallen Order trailers or the Survivor trailers. And that's not meant as a dig at those other ones, because I know those are good games because everybody says they're good games and they look like a lot of fun. But this one just tapped into something that I've been missing. I didn't realize I've been missing in Star Wars for a while, and it has me intrigued. And we can talk about the gameplay too, because I very rarely watch video game gameplay. That's just not something I'm really into. But I watched the 10 minutes of it because in part because I was a little bit surprised that it existed. Like you were saying earlier, Chris, like it's weird that most Star Wars games don't come with this in the announcement. I think it shows the benefits of having many games in development. Whereas where Jedi Fallen Order was kind of the only thing, and so any video game updates were just like inching us a little bit closer and closer and closer to that game. Kind of reminds me of the lead up to The Force Awakens, honestly, where like that was the only thing, so it had to all be that. Whereas this is more like The Last Jedi, where there's other things that are happening while it's being made, so they can wait a little while longer and hit us with a bunch of stuff all at once, which they did with that movie. I was a little bit surprised that the gameplay didn't get more play. Honestly, like I didn't know it existed.
I saw that first for some reason.
I stumbled upon it because I was doing prep for the show, and I was clicking around on StarWars.com, and I found it there. I didn't see it on YouTube. I didn't see it anywhere. That's where I saw it. And I watched the whole thing. It looks terrific. It looks like a lot of fun, and again taps into a really engaging story. But Star Raptor, we'll go back to you for some more thoughts on the gameplay itself.
Oh yeah, so it does something that is groundbreaking for games in general, and that's not putting it, I'm putting it lightly. Like it does some fundamentally amazing things that, thanks to the power of the next gen systems, you're able to traverse on foot, go to a speeder bike, fly to a town, walk around, soak in your environment, all the living world elements of people walking around, go to a cantina, get in a firefight, get to your ship, fly into space without any loading screens, hit the hyperdrive, and then you're in another system with no loading screens. Like, that is absolutely insane that we're finally at this point where we could do something like that, because I think a lot of people with Battlefront 3 that was canceled, I think that was originally going to have like surface to space combat, and people were just chopping at the bit for that. That's so cool, having no barriers between play. So for this game to come out and have something like that, and also another groundbreaking, not groundbreaking, but this is in other games, it's the fact of a wanted system, of a reputation system with different criminal syndicates. If if you're working for the Pikes and you kind of double cross them or something, they're going to send out people to get you. But if you're in their favor, you might have access to other locations where they can help sell you stuff or other things. So there's a lot of avenues and a lot of, this is what open world is all about. Like, you're going to go, I look to games, some of the best in the business. I look to games like Red Dead Redemption 2, GTA 5, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. Like, those are up there on the list. And this, for me, and I know we haven't seen much of it, but I think when people first heard that Ubisoft was making a Star Wars game, there was a little bit of trepidation, because it's like, oh, is this going to be like a copy and paste Far Cry or a copy and paste Assassin's Creed? And Ubisoft games are known to have like a lot of, formulaic kind of stuff that's repetitive. But I think a lot of people, myself included, have been surprised by the promise of, like, Ubisoft seems to like have really respected the franchise of Star Wars, to really put in a lot of, it seems like they've won all out. Just from what I've seen so far, they've left no stone unturned. Just the atmospheric effects as I'm, watching us as we're talking, just the stuff happening in the background. I know this is a simple vertical slice of a game, but I can't imagine that elements like this are going to make it to the final game, where you'll be seeing a ship flying off the background. You can chase it down your speeder, see where it lands, who's on the ship, like just really cool stuff like that. And having the free to play to kind of, oh, you can go into situations stealth, or you could just go guns and blazing and just do whatever style you. And as Ben said, the dialogue options, having that freedom there. So gameplay looks stellar. And from one of the developers, they said, they this team is used to working on the Division 2, which I both played both those games. Fantastic games. It's more of like an open world kind of like multiplayer shooter, so they're really good with the shooting mechanics. But there's another element in this game entirely that I wasn't expecting, and that is the space combat. And so far from what we've seen, I think it looks pretty good. And the developer basically was saying, like, we essentially made two games with Outlaws. We had a whole team focus on just the flight combat, giving it out its due, and then a whole nother team just focusing on the planetary stuff. And you got different kind of atmosphere stuff, like in orbit, like you might have space stations or like wreckage like we see. So they really put the care into like make this world feel alive, which is going to be just awesome, because it seems like, a lot of games that we've seen, other games like Starfield this weekend, which were just incredible with how many planets you can visit and all that. So yeah, it's great to see that Star Wars is finally getting its due with a fully fledged open world game from what we've seen so far.
I just that's really what blew me away about this. Like, I've seen a lot of the elements that are in this game and other Star Wars games, but the thing that really blew me away was the realism of, like, you get in a ship and then you fly it, and then it just you stay with it the entire time, all the way to space as you're going through the atmosphere. Like, you're not cutscening, you're not jumping in time. Like, you have that happening in both Star Wars movies often, and then also in Star Wars games. So, like, having that realism of the actual time it takes to get to space, like that really blew me away that they did that. That shows that they have that attention to detail to making it immersive. That's super exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Ben, any thoughts on the gameplay?
No, I was gonna mention the whole Battlefront 3 thing, that comparison, because that's what got me thinking. I'm like, well, that's the last time I saw that. What I heard people talking about was that whole thing when there's a bit if you've seen that trailer, it's potato quality, might be somewhere out there if you can find it still, of someone jumping in a Jedi starfighter and going from a planet, and they go up to the Jedi cruiser and they land, and people are like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? You know, this is amazing. And then also in retrospect, damn you, whoever made that game and didn't make it, for not letting that game be released. And now here we are in basically what is even better, like being able to traverse from one planet to another, and this presumably being able to go to space, go to a space station, go to a ship, whatever else. And you see in the trailer, and being that everything else in the trailer seems to be accurate, I'm assuming you will get to participate in space battles and stuff like that between the rebellion and the Empire. And being that this is in an era when we're assuming the war is intensifying, maybe that's why, is because we're in this era of, you know, we're going to see more action than the average thing. This is after Empire Strikes Back. This is, you know, the rebellion's on the run, and Poodoo's hitting the fan.
Absolutely. Let me ask an extremely in the weeds question from a Star Wars perspective, and this is a question I'm interested in the answer, although the answer itself won't affect how much I enjoy the game or not. And that is because you have options, because you can make choices in the game. Like in the gameplay, there's a moment when Kay meets an Imperial officer, and the Imperial officer's like, all right, pay me the bribe. And then you, the player, as Kay, get to decide whether you want to pay the bribe or not. Now, obviously, this has been done in other Star Wars games before. You could do that in Knights of the Old Republic. You do it in the Old Republic, things like that. How does this fit in canon? If I can just push my glasses up for a second here. How does this, and let me channel the Ion Cannon boys here. How does this fit in canon? How do we, like, you know, what is the official quote unquote version of the story? Excuse me. Like that doesn't affect how much I enjoy the game. It won't affect how I play it if I hypothetically play it. But I'm just kind of interested in it. I think that's kind of an interesting challenge for the old story group.
Well,
yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say. I think I would assume that the overall plot, all the choices are kind of being funneled into the overall plot. So whatever you choose, it might kind of go down a little bit differently, but it's still gonna, like, the main plot points are gonna be the same. So your gameplay isn't canon. It's if there's cut scenes and there's an overall story, things that are happening and in the world and such that you come across, that's canon. But you playing through it, it's like you're being put in a Star Wars film. What you do inside a Star Wars film is not canon. If you're VR inside a Star Wars film. So I think that's what's going on there. And I don't think they've gotten to the point. I know, like, there's probably a reason why, like, The Force Unleashed is not canon anymore, just in addition to it not being made prior to Disney, is that it did kind of have different endings in a sense to it with what could happen.
Yeah, and in that case, there was, like, in the first game, I remember, like,
there's an
there was,
official
like,
version, and then
there's the official version, and then there was, like, the alternate ending where you wake up and you're still alive and you're in a suit, and
and Shakti dies a different way.
Yeah. There's a whole thing. So I think the simple answer is just, like, there is a quote unquote canon version of the story that is linear, that is cemented into the canon as to what. Say, for example, they're making a movie, TV show, whatever, and there's stuff that's set up. There's, like, we're seeing a Kiva in this.
Yeah,
like, that is a planet that was from Aftermath. We've never seen it in not real life, but in live action. And so, like, this is establishing that, like, if this shows up in a TV show or movie like that, they're going to be referring back to this, like, as this is going to be establishing that, and that will be canon. But it'll be like what happens on that planet and what, you know, Kay does will be not your specific gate playthrough. It'll be whatever the official version of the story is, whatever the script is, or whatever else.
Yeah. When we get Star Wars Timelines 2nd edition in 2030, we're gonna see those footnotes of Kay Vest stole this object from this in what would it be, like 4 BBY or 3 BB. Or no, 3 ABY or 4 ABY, something like that, and you're gonna see those footnotes. That's about it. You're not gonna have I don't believe them having a choice of you possibly dying or surviving. I don't think anything's gonna be that crazy. Maybe the companions, maybe, I don't know, but like, or not the companions, I don't think we have any, but just the side characters, maybe. But I'm curious, because that was the biggest thing I was thinking about when they first like made the Disney canon and then had video games part of it. It's like, that's a big thing with video games. Eventually people want to have a game like this, like an RPG, and RPGs have that element of the choice and the player choice and why it feels special to the player playing the game. So here they are, they're finally doing it now. We're going to get into that point where there's no returning now. They're going to do it once. We know we have other RPG games coming after this one, so this is going to be the first of many now.
I think actually what they should do is they should just pick one person, and their playthrough is the actual canon. Like, oh yeah, Star Raptor, you're going to be whatever you do in the game, that's canon. So Pablo's going to be watching your stream, and he's going to be taking notes.
Oh my gosh, to have that kind of burden on my shoulders.
Amazing. Yeah, so it's, I guess the story in broad strokes can be referenced. The details of how you get from point A to point B, that's up to you. I like it. I like it. Now, if you're wondering when we might learn something more about Star Wars Outlaws, we might not have to wait all that long. In fact, just a little bit over a month, because there's a video that was released. And I didn't know about this until Star Raptor, you told me about it before we started, that Ubisoft actually put out themselves about the actress who plays Kay, Umberly Gonzalez. And in the video, she talks about playing the character, and there's great behind the scenes footage of her in the mocap suit and everything. And at the end of the video, she says, and be sure to catch me and some of the other designers who worked on this game next month at Comic-Con International in San Diego.
Ooh.
So Star Wars Outlaws is coming to San Diego Comic-Con.
Wait, do we get to play it? Do we get to play it at Comic-Con?
That would be terrific.
Oh my gosh.
I remember, Chris,
man.
Chris, you remember back in 2015, we played Star Wars Battlefront for the first time at Comic-Con? That was, we were like, at the time, I didn't play video games, and you hadn't started really playing video games yet. And people were like, why the hell did you guys get to play it? Because you guys don't know anything about video games, but you got to be the ones to play it. And it was like it was one of these like 15 on 15 showdowns on Hoth. And I think we had like the lowest scores. I think one of us got 2 kills and the other one got 1. It was really quite pathetic. But it was fun, and that was the point of it. It was all around good times. So maybe we'll get to play it, or at the very least we'll hear some more from the creatives behind Star Wars Outlaws.
Or it'll be like EA Play, where I got like shuffled into this room where it was like all black around me. Like there was just black curtains. The floor was black. The ceiling was black. There were benches that were black. The only thing that was colored was the screens. That was the only color, and there was the screens. And then they were like, we're going to show you, like, we're going to basically, one guy hooked up to the Skywalker Saga, Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga, and then just played it in front of us for 10 minutes, and then we left.
That'd be pretty good. I'd take that. I'd be all in for that. They could just play that same part from the 10-minute video. Just play that same part over again. I'm into that. That'd be cool. Yeah, we gotta figure out who's in charge of press for Ubisoft and see if we can get in their good books.
Oh, the good old days of
have
E3.
An idea who that is. Hold on.
Well, we'll figure that out after the show, Chris. We'll figure that out after the show. Of course, Outlaws comes out next year on all those consoles we mentioned earlier. We'll move on to the other kind of big story that dropped this week. Disney has released their updated movie slates, their theatrical release calendar for the next several years, going all the way up until 2031, which is not a year. That doesn't exist. That's not real. Which is when Avatar 5 is slated to come out. Again, not a real thing. Not a real year. But the big news for Star Wars, the big takeaways for Star Wars is that an untitled Star Wars movie previously slated for a December 19th, 2025 release date has been moved to a May 22nd, 2026 release date. There is also a Star Wars movie coming out in December 2026 as previously planned. Which is December 18th, 2026. And if I'm not mistaken, there's another Star Wars movie slated for 2027 as well.
Right.
So 2 movies in 2026 and 1 movie in 2027. What do we think? How do we feel? What's our reaction? Ben, start us off.
I don't like it. Look, I think I had a similar reaction to a lot of people that were like, haven't we been through this already? Didn't we just talk about this? Did we just say that, hey, the whole idea of doing 2 Star Wars movies in 1 calendar year was maybe a bad idea? And especially with some of these things that they're butting up against some big other movies that could be tough competition, and also going back to the lesson that I hope Lucasfilm learned from Solo, which is just like, let these movies breathe, and not just with Star Wars, with other Star Wars movies, with other Disney movies that they obviously have control over. So the idea of like, yeah, I am very much in the camp of just like, we had 1 a year. I like that a lot. I think that was quite perfect, and I would love it. They just keep doing that, or 1 every couple of years. This whole trying to shoehorn 2 a year seems a bit much, and I think it is a bit much. And I don't know. I'm not like going to freak out over this, because I feel like this is so far off. Even 2026, I'm like, what, that's a thing that's coming. Like, I can't even wrap my mind around that. That's a thing. So much could change. There's already so much changing. This is happening, I'm sure, because they're trying to reschedule things in preparation for whatever is happening with the writer's strike and everything like that. So I don't really have a whole lot of thoughts on this. I think ultimately I'm just like, yeah, whatever. This might change in 6 months to a year. So it's if they do go through with this, I hope they don't. I really hope that they can pull back on this and not, because I'm like, why not just push it until the next year? Why not just have 3? Because I feel like, you have 22 in 2026, 1 in 2027. Are we going to have 2 again in 2028? Or is there going to be no movie in 2028? Like, what's the plan? What is the schedule? Ultimately, I would just wish they would just, push them out a little bit further and just let these movies breathe and not try to push that much, because that's a lot of Star Wars. And we're already in this scenario where ultimately there will probably be multiple Star Wars series, both live action and animated, in 2026 too. Look, I love Star Wars. I'm usually give me all the Star Wars all the time, but there is a limit. And I just hope they do this methodically, and I don't know. It's just it is a bit weird, and it's weird too that we were coming back to this discussion of just like, well, we have 1 or 2 per year. Like, just I feel like we settled this already.
I will say though, I feel like the 2 a year in 2026 is less like a thing of like, we can do 2 Star Wars movies in a year, and more a production reality of they have these movies. They have the talent signed on for these movies, expecting the movies to come out in a certain time frame, and the 2025 movie is being pushed back. They're gonna try and blame it on the writer's strike. Whether that or not that's true, or whether or not that's really a reality, is debatable. This could be a bit of a negotiating tactic from the studios, but I feel like the creatives that are locked into that movie are expecting that movie to come out within a certain window, and asking them to, sit tight for another year is a little bit tougher. And when you just sort of move down the timeline that way, the real world release schedule, you might start to lose talent because they're like, oh, I have to commit not just until 2027 to work on my Star Wars movie, but I have to commit to 2028. Like I can't really even start my next project until, mid to late 2028 when editing and post-production are winding down on what we assume is James Mangold's movie. So I think there's an element of that in there where I don't think the plan is to go 2 Star Wars movies a year. And the fact that the 2027 movie is by itself, there is not a second movie in that year, I think suggests that the plan is to go back to a movie a year. And we're going to have 2 in 2026 because of the realities of the world, not because they think that's what's necessarily best for Star Wars. That's my read on that a little bit. Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I didn't for once think this was about doing 2 movies per year. If that was the case, they wouldn't have delayed one. They would have just added a new one to this point.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a delay. So that makes sense. At this point, I don't care. Like, why should I care? Like, they've been speculating about release dates and what movies are going to be coming out and who's going to be writing them and who's going to be directing them since 2019. Like, and prior to 2019, it's been all speculation since 2019. Prior to 2019, half of it was speculation and half of it actually happened. So, like, at this point, whenever they're filming a movie, yay. Whenever they're like, hey, we're actually filming a movie, then it's like, okay, this is cool. This is exciting. Until that point, like, the likelihood that these dates are going to stick are very low. They're so far in the future anyway. It's probably going to change again at some point. They might change it, move it back. They might move it forward. They might say this one's canceled. They might say we have a new one and there is 2 in a year in 2027. Like all those things are extremely probable at this point. So my only take on this is talk to me when you're actually filming a movie. Other than that, I don't really have a reaction to any of this.
When cameras roll on day one of principal photography, that's when we can take you out of Carbonite and get your attention.
At this point, we're gonna have to say real quick. At this point, it sounds like we're gonna have like 2 Star Wars celebrations before the next Star Wars movie. Like,
oh yeah, that was going to be the big coming out party for the 2025 release, as a timed celebration to be right around then, right? We were all thinking like, oh, that's going to be the big promotion. Not so much anymore, it seems.
It could still be like it would be a year out from it, roughly. It's just a little over a year. You could show something. You could do a little tease, reassure people that the movie is actually happening. But yeah, you're right. It's not going to be the celebration for the 2025 movie the way it was intended. But Star Raptor, based on your you were kind of nodding along and agreeing with Chris there. I take it you feel similar.
Well, more or less with Ben, actually. I'm just kind of like, really? Like, I think 1 in a year is good, especially because all this content, like we're being fed so much of Star Wars fans that I still like the movies to be once a year, to be like the big thing that we're all looking for. Yeah, the shows at this point, they've lost their luster to me. I'm not looking forward to them as much as I was like season 1 or season 2 of Mando. Now that they're out, they come out, it's like, oh, great. I'm not looking like every minute to see what the timer is anymore, right? So the movies still could be that way, but I feel like when you have more than one, then it starts to dilute that whole thing a little bit. But I'm guessing it's because Mandalorian verse, I guess the one movie is going to be the Mandalorian verse one, so maybe they don't want us to wait that much longer after the last season of whatever show to be like hanging over our heads and then losing the hype. So I guess they got to keep that movie where it was supposed to be originally. And that means that something else has to shift forward or backwards or something like that. So yeah, I don't think they did this purposely. It's just they have to do it this way to keep the schedule for the Disney Plus stuff, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. I will say about the Mandalorian movie, the Dave Filoni directed movie. That was they were sort of initially saying that would be kind of the second movie to come out, and it would be the Rey movie that would launch things back. To me, it makes the most sense, especially if you're going to do 2 in a year, that the first one has to be the Filoni movie. It has to be the Mandalorian movie. And I felt that way long before we knew that this stuff was actually happening. I've felt for a while that Star Wars's return to the theater would be in the form of some kind of continuation of the Mandoverse. And to me, I think you ride the wave of excitement and hype around the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, all of those shows. I think you ride the wave of hype on that into the Star Wars' grand triumphant return, and you get people excited about seeing Star Wars in the movie theaters again with that. And then after people have bought back into Star Wars in the theaters, then you hit them with something new like the Rey movie and then the Dawn of the Jedi movie a year later. So I don't, I think the plan is still to launch with the Rey movie, and I think that's fun. I think that's fair, but I do think that the Mando movie is the smartest bet to relaunch the Star Wars movies
for sure.
Yeah, and to Star Raptor's point, I think that would be the movie that has the most power, for lack of a better term, on the schedule. Like, because it has to be timed with whatever they're doing on the TV slate.
Mm-hmm.
It has to come out at a certain time. And they can't just drop that anywhere. They can't just say, oh, well, we've got this movie and we can just push it back. Like, it has to be timed with that. Whereas they could drop the Mangold movie kind of anytime in the timeline. They could, and same with the Rey Skywalker movie. So, this is all, they're obviously trying to formulate a schedule. I don't think it's as concrete as maybe it appears, but they have movies and they're in production in various forms, and they have to put a date on a schedule that says, hey, this is when we're scheduling this to come out, and that could change. But for right now, this is the way it is.
Yeah. These schedules are kind of targets, they're goals, but they're movable ones. I will say we've mentioned the writer's strike a couple of times in this, and it kind of looms over everything that's going on down there in Hollywood these days. There's been a lot of talk about the studios trying to weaponize fandom, whether it's Star Wars, DC, Marvel, whatever, and moving and rejigging the schedules so that there's longer wait times between the releases, so that the fans start to get frustrated and start demanding new content and theoretically turn on the writers and say, get back to work. Let's not let that happen. Make no mistake, the writer's strike could be over tomorrow if the studios would just give the writers a fair deal. And until they do, they're going to still be out there picketing. And that's why these movies could be delayed. That's why these shows could be delayed. These studios make obscene amounts of money, which is their right to do so in our world. But if they're going to do that, they need to pay the people who are, providing them with the means to make this content. So there's that.
Yeah, if you're upset about a movie not coming out, or a TV show, or wait times, or I didn't get my 11th episode of Star Wars this week, like get mad at the people that made the schedule, not the people that wrote the episode, because I think we're, at least I hope most people would understand what's actually going on here.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on. There's not a ton else going on in the news. Some reports of Katie Sackhoff said she visited the Ahsoka set, but wouldn't say anything more about, Bo-Katan being in that show or some other shows. All right, she visited the set. She went to go see her friends, or, she put on the armor and did a couple of scenes. Who knows? We'll find out.
He's probably filming some pickups or advanced things, promos for Mando season 4. It's probably the same set.
Very, very possible. Yeah.
It's
that's
the volume. I mean, it's the same set. It's the same set.
Yeah.
It's like I went to the set of Ahsoka. You went to your set while they were filming Ahsoka. Got it.
Yeah, you just press a button on a keyboard, the background changes, and suddenly you're filming Mando season 3.
Yeah, you probably live like a few minutes
There's
away.
someone
like-
who works on the production as being like, it's not like that at all. Like you're just overly simple. I would just press the button and it just changed the
Yeah.
set. Like that's so. Like someone probably spends hours doing that. And you just
Do
oversimplify
you
their
think
job.
that sweeping all the sand out of that studio is so easy as pressing a button?
Yeah, you press a button and a big broom descends out of the sky and just shoves it off to the side. That's how it works.
Look, it's
Like,
so
oh, God,
easy to
we
make Star
fans.
Wars shows. They're just gonna fire everybody, and Jon Favreau is just gonna be sitting over there with remote control, just controlling everything. No big deal.
It's Jon Favreau in the corner with his action figures like Dark Helmet and Spaceballs going, and now Din Djarin will walk over here silently, followed by Baby Yoda, and Bo-Katan will come up to him and say, "This is the way," and roll credits. I'm a genius.
I mean, he definitely
Hey.
can play Mando. He's just got to put the helmet on. I mean,
Hey, there you
that's
go.
easy.
There you go. Love Jon Favreau. Love the guy to bits. Yeah, there's not a ton else going on in the news. I mean, we had 2 humongous stories. So we'll get to Ask the SWU, our segment where we respond to super chats and Discord comments. We'll get to all that stuff in a moment. But first, do you guys want to play a game?
Sure.
That's a very scary way of phrasing a question.
That's a loaded question.
game.
Yeah, you know the thing about the broom coming out of the ceiling and sweeping the sand away, it can also sweep you away.
Oh,
Would you like to play a game?
oh my god.
So I can't take credit for coming up with this game. I discovered this as I was
Listening
scrolling.
to Canadian hockey radio.
It's nothing to do. This one has nothing to do with hockey. Nothing
Okay.
to do with hockey. Although, if we're going to talk about hockey, let me just say congratulations to the Vegas Golden Knights on winning the Stanley Cup this year. I'm wearing my Mandalorian Golden Knights
right.
crossover shirt
Oh.
in honor of that team. Well deserved.
Vegas is about to become the sports capital of the world.
Yeah, they really are.
Wow.
But I was scrolling through TikTok. And in between baking videos and old clips from Whose Line Is It Anyway, I came across a video by a user named Caroline, who has the handle @SweetBarreline, which is just terrific. A+ handle. Amazing. And the game is Finish the Line Star Wars Edition. And so in the TikTok videos, she runs through each Star Wars movie and starts to play a scene from it. And then you are supposed to duet the video. And when the Star Wars movie pauses, you're supposed to say the next line or the next part of a line from a Star Wars character. And she did this for all 9 Skywalker Saga movies. No Rogue One, no Solo. And I've gone through and transcribed the questions. And I'm going to put it out to you guys to challenge of how you do at finishing the line Star Wars Edition. So you'll have the choice of, episodes 1 through 9. And then since you won our Star Wars Trivia Championship last year, you're the reigning defending champion. You'll get to pick first. Star Raptor as the guest and as yet unranked challenger in the Star Wars Underworld Trivia Showdown. You'll get second pick. And Chris, since you lost 2 years in a row, you get third pick. So Ben, you pick a movie. What movie do you want to do?
You know what? I won't be greedy. I won't pick an easy one. I'll pick a more difficult one. I'll do, since it's the one I saw most recently, I'll go with Return of Jedi.
Ben is going with Return of the Jedi. Star Raptor, what movie do you want?
I'll go into New Hope.
New Hope. Very original trilogy centric here. All right. And Chris, what do you want?
Guess.
Attack of the Clones?
Yes.
All right. All right. So Ben, we'll start with you. We'll do Return of the Jedi. I will say I'll give you 2 hints if you need them. If you need them, you can ask for 2 hints. I will cut you off if you take too long to answer. You'll get no points. And I will say, bonus points are available because I enjoy 2 things: completionists and impressions. So use that information how you will.
Okay.
Oh, no.
All right.
All right. So Ben, we're gonna start this off with Return of the Jedi. These aren't in chronological order. These are just, I think they're supposed to be in order of like easiest to most difficult. Sometimes I agree, sometimes I don't agree. But there are 9 questions. There's 9 lines. And for everybody who's listening live, feel free to play along, but don't post the answers in the chat.
I'm gonna turn the chat. I'm gonna turn the chat off because I can't deal with it.
If you do post the answers in the chat, you'll get a temporary. You'll get a timeout. You'll be put in timeout. All right, Ben. Here we go. Start us off. Here's the line. Here's the first half of the line. You failed, Your Highness. I am a Jedi.
Like my father before me.
Correct. There's nothing to see. I used to live here, you know.
You're gonna die here, you know. Convenient.
Nailed it. You're coming with me. I'll not leave you here. I've got to save you.
You already have, Luke. You were right. You were right about me. Tell your sister you were right.
Bonus point for the wonderful old Ben.
Don't test me, all right? Don't tell me I can do impressions because I'll do them, okay?
That was great. All right, here we go. I beg your pardon, General Solo, but that just wouldn't be proper. Proper?
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
There you go. Admiral, we have enemy ships in Sector 37.
It's a trap!
There we go. You're not getting a bonus point for that one. That one's too easy. I hope so, Commander, for your sake.
The Emperor is not as forgiving as I am.
You got the answer correct, but I'm tempted to take away a point for that terrible Vader impression.
Oh, now you're taking away points. Okay, I'm doing the best I can. I am not James Earl Jones. Okay,
Luke, when gone am I?
The last of the Jedi will you be?
Good. When that happened, the good man who was your father was destroyed. Uh-oh. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You started counting. Of course, my brain freezes up even further.
The correct answer is, so what I told you was true from a certain point of view. I'm surprised that's the one that tripped you up. All right. How are we doing? Same as always.
That bad, huh?
Correct. All right. Ben, you got one wrong, but you still managed to get 9 out of 9.
Nice.
with your bonus point. Star Raptor will go to you next. You picked A New Hope.
This is not good because most people probably know this verbatim, and I should have picked something at least obscure if I was going to get everything wrong.
That's funny.
Oh no, I'm terrified.
Man, all right.
It gets better as you get into it, for the record.
Here we go. We don't need to see his identification.
You don't need to see his identification, right?
I'll give you another go at that one because it's we don't need to see his identification. It's not. I just want to make sure I emphasize the first word is we don't need to see his identification.
We don't need to see your identification.
Nope.
Nope.
The correct answer is these aren't the droids you're looking for.
Oh my gosh.
That's tough though.
Yeah, they're starting difficult on this one. All right, here we go. Continuing on. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes or given clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fortress.
This is what happens when I'm live, everybody.
Well, it's weird because this is almost like what's the next line?
It is.
Yeah, basically.
It'd be easier if you get to finish that line.
Yeah, well, you know.
Something force. Something more powerful than a start. I don't know.
Nope. The correct answer is I find your lack of faith disturbing. All right, here we go. And remember, you can ask for a hint. You can ask for a
you can know.
Yeah. All right. Take these two over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I want to go to Tashi. Oh, God.
I mean, there we go.
I got the right idea, but the dialogue is off.
I'll give you a
I
point.
want to
I'll
go
give
to
you a point.
Tashi station to pick up my power converter.
Close. I'll give you a 0.5. It's. But I was gonna go into Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Very close.
All right, here we go. She'll make 0.5 past light speed.
I'll take a hint.
It's the same character speaking, and it's a descriptive line.
Oh.
I did she did the Kessel run in 12 parsecs or something.
It's she may not look like much, but she's got it where it counts, kid.
Oh.
All right. Here
All
we
right, I'm
go.
fishing for one correct answer, and I'll be happy. Like a full point, and I'll be happy.
Okay.
These
How
are
about
not
this?
easy.
Yeah, this one's hard. I gotta say, this one's
these
harder.
are more obscure lines. People don't quote these lines very often.
Yeah, this one's definitely one of the harder ones. All right. And it's probably also easier when you're seeing the clips from the movie instead of having me read them out. But, copyright. For some reason, you can get away with that on TikTok. Okay. All right. I think I can get him before he gets there. He's almost in range.
Stay on target. Stay on target.
This one's really hard because the next line is, "That's no moon. It's a space station."
Oh.
All right. Somebody has to save our skins.
Hints.
She's telling him where to go.
Oh.
Into the shoot, Flyboy.
I'll give you that one.
Oh.
It's into the garbage chute, Flyboy, but I'll give you that one. All right.
One point.
Great shot, kid. That was 1 in a million.
No, blow say go.
Nope. Remember, the force will be with you always.
Is this so hard to remember the order when characters are speaking?
Yeah, this is
not an easy game.
No. All right, here we go. Damn fool. I knew you were gonna say that.
I have simply no clue about this one.
I don't either.
What are these ones?
Is this from the deleted scene?
I think this one's pretty iconic, but that might just be me. Who's the more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? And finally, please get this one. We're all fine. We're all fine here now. Thank you.
I think I know this. This is one of my favorite lines.
Shooting the thing. I could describe the scenes. Shooting the console. And
That is what happened.
blowing it up and saying, I never wanted a conversation anyway. See, when I can talk it through my head, I can start to get better. But yeah,
that comes later. Yeah.
Yeah, you're just before he shoots the thing.
There's
What does
one
he
other
say?
thing.
Just before he shoots the thing.
I wish there were steals in this game because
he
this
makes
is like
him
the only one I
wince.
know.
It makes him wince. All right.
So
Can I guess?
Yeah, you can guess at it.
I don't need a point. Does he say "How are you"?
That is correct.
That's literally my favorite line in that movie. That's why I know. Otherwise, I wouldn't. That's why I like Star Wars, because of that line. It's just, I love it so much.
So, Star Raptor, your final score.
Oh God.
1.5 out of 9.
Woo! I got a point.
I am so bad at quoting, so I don't know.
Yeah,
if
I've
I'm
never
gonna
done
be able to
anything
beat
like that ever.
Like I'm not
so
a good, like I was that kid where I was in like those I don't know what to call them, like after school programs where you had to memorize things, and I could not do that.
All right. Here we go. Attack of the Clones. Okay. Chris, you're up.
All right, let's try. Let's see.
And again, remember, completionists and impressions. There's points on the board if you want to take the top spot from Ben. All right, here's the first line. I don't like sand.
It's course it's rough and it gets everywhere.
So very close.
I was trying to remember the order of the words.
It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
I forgot the word irritating.
That's so irritating.
I forgot that word.
Can I just say, one of my proudest moments as a Star Wars fan was seamlessly working that line into a conversation that had nothing to do with Star
I think I
Wars.
remember you telling me that story once.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was talking to a work colleague, and I was asking about his vacation, and he said he went to the beach. And I'm like, oh, that sounds really nice. He goes, yeah, but man, the sand, like it just like it gets all over you and everything. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't like sand. Of course, it's rough, it's irritating, and it gets everywhere. And he's like, yeah, I know, bro. It's so true.
See,
like,
I actually did that
right
too.
over his head.
I did that too, and it didn't go over the person's head. And I was very excited.
Nice. All right, next line. I retransmitted it just as you requested, Master. Then we decided to come and rescue you.
He says something sarcastic, right? Like rescue.
Yeah, you're on the right track with the sarcasm. It's very Obi-Wan sass.
Yeah. What is he saying? I don't know why I'm not looking at this, but he's just like, rescue. You did a good job, or something like that.
Oh, you're so close. You're so close. Because it's I retransmitted just as you requested, Master. Then we decided to come and rescue you. And he looks up at his hands and the chains, and he goes, "Good job."
At least I kind of remember what happened.
I give you the 0.5.
I'll take it.
All right.
I think all these are going to be 0.5s because I'm bad at the verbatim, but I remember the gist.
That's the tough part, getting it exactly right.
Yeah, you might get this one. You might get this one.
I hope so.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
I call it aggressive negotiations.
We'll give it to you.
Nice.
Technically, it should be no. I call it aggressive negotiations, but we'll give it to you.
We got another one where it's just like the exact wording.
Yeah. All right. Continuing on. You must realize there aren't enough Jedi to protect the Republic.
All right. I need a hint for this one.
It's the same character talking. It's right at the beginning of the movie, and it leads into a description of the Jedi.
It's like, we are peacekeepers, not warriors.
You're so close.
This is gonna happen every time. It's gonna happen every time.
I'm not giving you this one, but you are so
That's
close
okay.
because the correct answer is we're keepers of the peace, not soldiers.
Again, I know what the lines are. It's just I
Basically what it
remember
was.
things not in my
Yep.
like. I don't have a photographic memory like Ben does.
Yeah,
I don't
apparently.
hear the lines in my head. I just remember what the point of the words. Were. That's so funny.
All right,
Kind
here
of
we
an
go.
interesting psychological study on how
Yeah,
we
it
remember
is.
things.
It is. All right. Here's the next line. You're not all powerful, Annie.
I should be.
Can you keep it going?
Oh, what else does he say? I should
I want
be.
to say so much right now.
Oh, sorry, man. I know
feel
you
like
can
we're
hear the movie
killing
in your
Ben.
head. Yeah. He's like, I should be.
Along
No,
with
I
a
can't
really
remember.
bad
I'll-
Hayden Christensen
I
impression.
I'll give you 0.5. Ben, do you want to do your Hayden Christensen impression?
What did he say after that, Ben?
Well, I should be the most powerful Jedi ever.
That's not even right.
I was about to accept that. I'm like, that's not like that.
It's a bad
could
impression,
be.
and you got the
Could be.
line
Oh
wrong.
my
I'm gonna take a point off of your score.
Oh my
It's-
god.
Well, I
Screwed myself.
Well, I should be. One day I will be. I'll be the most powerful Jedi who ever lived.
Nice.
Emo
See, I'm
Annie.
infallible too. I forgot that I can.
No. Ben, you are fallible. If you were infallible, then you would never make a mistake.
I can
everything.
words.
That went over my head too.
Oh man,
So many
All right.
half points. Let's go. I'm just gonna get all these half points.
You're gonna. If you don't get this one, I'm gonna
I don't
fly to
know.
California
I
and
don't
smack
trust
you.
myself. I don't trust myself in anything in this game.
The shroud of the dark side has fallen.
Begun the Clone Wars have.
Yes. Ding,
Yeah, I
ding,
would have even
correct.
gotten that one. I would have even gotten that one.
All right.
All right. Full point.
All right.
We're moving.
Your clones are very impressive. You must be very proud.
Hint.
This line gets repeated very nearly verbatim in season 2 of The Mandalorian by the same actor.
They'll do their job.
Nope. Nobody says that in season 2 of The Mandalorian.
I don't remember.
I'm just a simple man trying to make my way in the universe.
He does say they'll do their job though, right?
They'll
It's just
do
later.
their job well or something.
Yeah,
Does
that's
he?
later.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah, Django,
It's later.
Django does in Attack of the
Yeah.
Clones. Yeah. I
Forgot
was thinking
that
about
one.
season 2 of The Mandalorian.
That's funny.
All
I
right.
don't know that as well, obviously.
We got two more to go.
All right.
All right, here's the line. Master, because someone erased it from the archive memory. Epic sigh.
True.
Oh,
Okay.
you're starting
Truly?
strong.
Truly, what's the adjective? Truly wonderful the mind of a child is.
Yes. Yes, you
All
got
right.
it.
Okay.
You got it.
Oh.
I was like, what is the adjective he used? Was it brilliant? Was it
Look, I realize what's going on here. The problem is that it's always like they take an iconic line and then they get the lead up sentences to it. And it's
Yeah,
just
it's
like
tough.
it
It's
throws
tough.
some of them just aren't that well known and
tough.
just throws you off.
It's
Ugh.
tough. I mean, it's working for me. I'm remembering it. It is working. I'm
All
not
right.
like Ben, but I'm not I'm trying here.
All right, and the final line is, I don't want to sell you death sticks. Come on.
Is he muted?
No, he's thinking.
Okay. I don't want to sell you death sticks. That's okay. Hint is that you're trying to impersonate Sleaze Bagano there, right?
That was my Sleaze Bagano impression. Yes.
Okay.
So the next
Okay.
line is,
Then that's when Obi-Wan retorts with, "You want to go home and rethink your life."
I want to go home and rethink my life. Correct. All right, Chris, you got 1, 2, 3, 4.5, 5 out of 9.
Okay,
Ben,
I'll take that.
Ben remains
I
undefeated.
thought that would be worse. I thought that would be much worse than that, to be honest.
Ben remains undefeated. We'll have to see how Hannah does next week, and maybe we'll give you guys another go at some of these other movies. And if I'm not mistaken, at Sweet Barrowline has started to do second passes at some of the movies. So maybe there'll be another opportunity to go after
I
some
still
of these
think
movies.
that she was trolling with the A New Hope ones. Like those I did not know any. I would have had a similar score to the Star Raptor on that. To be honest, I did not know most of those.
Yeah, that one was tough.
That
The
was
other
not
ones,
easy.
the other ones that I thought were really tough and would really be tough with me just reading them out are Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, well, I've only seen those movies like maybe 20 times each, so
Only.
I mean, compared to the other ones, it's definitely the hundreds. I've seen Star Wars 500 times. Like
Yeah. Oh, amazing. Well, again, shout out to Caroline, aka at Sweet Barrowline on TikTok. She does this with other movies as well. It's great fun. It's a lot of fun to watch and play along. And look, we've done 3 movies. There's 6 other ones, and like I said, she started to repeat. So we may have opportunities to bring this game back, and we will put Hannah to the test at some point. But for now, let's move on and let's get to our new favorite segment, our iconic Ask the SWU. This is where we turn things over to you, the listener, and we read some Discord comments, we read some super chats, and we discuss. So why don't we start with a super chat? Let's start with a super chat. And of course, we start with a super chat from Joel. Joel says, I have an interesting question today. Can you say with complete confidence that the Star Wars franchise would be in a strong place today if George Lucas had not sold Lucasfilm to Disney in 2012? Little alternate history here from Joel. What do we think the state of the Star Wars franchise would be had George not sold? Any thoughts?
What was originally
Yeah.
planned for like what he was gonna do next? I kind of forget.
Yeah. Okay. I know exactly. I know. Yeah. I know exactly what would have happened. Okay. So this is what would have happened. Like you said, we would have gotten Star Wars Detours probably within a year, probably of when the sale happened. We would have gotten an announcement that Star Wars Episode 7 was in development, and would be bringing back the big 3, Carrie, Harrison, and Mark. We would have eventually, probably not very soon, but eventually gotten the Star Wars live action show, Star Wars Underworld, it probably would have been on Netflix. Would be my guess.
I say HBO, but potato.
Yeah, either HBO or HBO Go or Netflix.
Or Max.
No, it was not called Max back then. Also, HBO. The fact that you called your thing Max so that all the HBO contracts are residuals are
there's another one.
Shame on you.
Shame.
So
in the words of a famous character from a famous HBO show, shame ding, shame ding,
that's
shame
messed up.
Ding.
So that would have happened. In this alternate universe, we also get Star Wars 1313 release. We also get Star Wars Battlefront 3 release because George Lucas just steps in and keeps those things from dying. And we get Clone Wars, probably about 8 or 9 seasons of Clone Wars. Eight seasons of Clone Wars, ending with the Siege of Mandalore. Although this time the Siege of Mandalore is in theaters. It's released similar to the Clone Wars movie as a theatrical cut. And let me think. That I would say that's the major things that I would have expected to see.
Here's what I think, because I have a much more pessimistic stance on this. I think we would have gotten 8 seasons of Clone Wars, maybe 9 if we're lucky.
Yeah.
I think we would have gotten a couple seasons of Detours.
Yep.
And that would have been it.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think I love the icons. Yeah, no, I don't think that happens without the Disney sale, because George wasn't getting Underworld, the show made. He was struggling to make it. He kept running into all sorts of different roadblocks from his things like he couldn't get the technology to where he wanted it to be, and other things like people in the valley, it's not the valley, in the Bay Area blocked him from building a studio where he wanted to build a studio, and like all this stuff, everything was going wrong. It wasn't happening. It wasn't getting to where it was, and that's why he turned his sights back towards movies. But I don't think George at that point in his life wants to make episode 7. I think he started to write it, as he said, with the intention of handing it off. And I don't think it gets to that point of being handed off without Disney stepping in, because I don't think George could actually hand it off. As much as I think he may have wanted to, I think he would have been very, very hands-on. And it would have been a challenge for any director coming in to make that movie, if they ever got it to the place where it was ready to be made, which who knows if it was. And I think the 3D re-releases would have happened. That probably would have been fun, but things would have just kind of carried on as they were circa 2012. It just would have carried on as they were for another 10 years. And then, maybe there'd be some specials here and there, like the Lego ones and that sort of thing, but things would have started to wind down until, probably, and I hate to even contemplate this, until George passed away. And then somebody else was left with what to do with Lucasfilm, what to do with Star Wars. And, part of the reason that George sold was that he couldn't get things made on his own, and he couldn't continue to have Lucasfilm be what it was on his own. So, and there were people at Lucasfilm at the time who were content to just license Star Wars, just have Star Wars be a licensing thing. So I don't think we get new movies. I don't think we get new shows. Maybe you get a couple of new games. You get the re-releases and stuff. But I don't think you see the, what's the word? Banquet, glory, the banquet of Star Wars that we have now. That's not the correct metaphor, but I can't think of what the right one is. Buffet. I don't know. I'm hungry. Now I'm hungry. But it wouldn't get to that point. And even if George made episode 7, like, there's some wonderful attempts at rewriting history going on right now by people who are just looking to make a quick buck off of hating on the Disney stuff, which, by the way, you don't have to love it. You don't have to even like it. But let's not pretend that the prequels were universally beloved, which people are trying to tell you, or that they weren't divisive. Or that George was always, seen as a visionary. People were so obscenely negative and rude and horrible and toxic to those movies, to the people who made them, to George. Ask Ahmed Best, ask Jake Lloyd if you can find him, ask George. Hey, for crying out loud, there was the phrase, the horrible phrase, blank raped my childhood, started with George Lucas raped my childhood because people didn't like episodes 1, 2, and 3. And thankfully that phrase has fallen out of favor and has been kind of replaced by the less overtly obscene ruined my childhood. And thankfully we've kind of moved away from that too. But go look up that song. There's a song called that.
Damn.
If you ever want to see what it was like.
Or just don't.
Yeah, you're better off not. But if you ever want to imply, or if you ever want to buy into this myth that people are selling, literally selling, because they're making money off of it with streams and merch, quote unquote, and all that stuff. Like, go back and watch that song and then tell me that, if George Lucas made episode 7, it would have been beloved and the second coming of Star Wars. No, it would have gotten the same reaction that the Clone Wars movie or Attack of the Clones got. So I don't think Star Wars would be in a better place. Now, would I love to see what George Lucas would have done in the alternate history where he actually got everything done that he wanted to make? Of course. I'd love to see George Lucas 7, 8, 9. I'd love to see Star Wars Underworld. Love to see all these things. Love to see detours. Hell, I mean, detours! I love all of that. But I think the best thing that could have happened to the Star Wars franchise, based on the way things were going in 2011, 2012, is what has happened. Or the sale, at the very least. We can then debate the subsequent decisions, but the sale itself, projected Star Wars into the future in a way that it just wouldn't have if it hadn't happened.
I think another interesting question would be, branch off this, what would happen if another studio bought Star Wars besides Disney?
Good,
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I almost feel. It's just like, I feel like there was selling Lucasfilm to another company was like inevitable. If for some reason the Disney acquisition didn't work out, it would have gone to, I don't know, any other studio. I think there was at the time other studios bidding on it or something. There was always that talk that there could have been other major companies that could have acquired Lucasfilm at that point, but Disney obviously was the one that was courting Lucas. So, and I think good place, just going back to Joel's question, would it be in a good place today if it hadn't been for maybe debatable? I'm kind of in the camp, just it kind of would have just kept going. I don't remember back when we started this podcast and we had the Clone Wars, we were looking forward to Star Wars 1313. We had all these things that were happening. It felt like we do right now. We're just like, oh my God, this is amazing. Star Wars is continuing and there's stuff happening and we've got stuff on the TV to watch and, Star Wars is alive and it's great. But that wasn't a widely held belief. It wasn't. It was a lot of the chatter on the internet was George Lucas is a lunatic. He doesn't know what he's doing with Star Wars. And the idea of him selling Lucasfilm off would have been a very it's amazing how the idea of Lucas selling Lucasfilm Disney became unpopular the day he sold it. Because up until that point, you'd poll people and be like, "Oh yeah, great, because I hate George and he doesn't know what he's doing." So it would have just continued, and the discourse would have just been more of just George is crazy, and why doesn't he do something with it? And he may have made his movies, and people would have hated him. The usual suspects would have loathed them and would still be talking about them. So it's not, you can't. It's incomparable to what we are seeing right now. I just I'm for George Lucas too. I just saw him at the premiere last night at Indiana Jones. I'm like,
you were there.
It looks like
you were there.
Yeah, I wish. But like, he's out there and he's not doing much. I don't know what he's doing. I'm like, I hope he's doing all right. And I'm hoping he's at peace with all this. I'm hoping, because like Star Wars almost killed him once upon a time. Like he put a lot of his heart and soul into these movies and making what they are. I hope he's doing okay. And I hope he's enjoying his retirement. And I hope, that Star Wars can continue and he can have a good life with his family and, just have a happy ending there, as opposed to more grief from the fandom and more stress and all that, which he never deserved.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the fandom would just become more and more niche, right? Like niche. It's just like, all right, after the show stopped, then it's just like the hardcore, paper canon people. Like you'd be still getting a ton of books, you'd still be getting, a ton of comics from Dark Horse or whatever. So that would keep the the hardcore fan base alive. Maybe the Force Unleashed 3, Battlefront 3, maybe 1313 would finally get off the ground somehow. So I could see like the hardcore fan base would always be there, but yeah, it would never reach the amount that it did in 2015 with Disney and getting all the merchandise back out there again and all the hype.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good question though. It's a fun whatchamacallit, brain teaser. That's not the word. I can't think. Let's go to one from the Discord. This one comes from Ali Kenobi, who says, is it possible for people who haven't watched Rebels to understand what's going on with this show, meaning Ahsoka? They say, I see a lot of casuals are interested in this, though. To me, it's like watching Obi-Wan Kenobi without having seen the prequels. It just doesn't work. Is Rebels required viewing for Ahsoka? What do we think?
It shouldn't be if they write it correctly. Like I would assume that the way that the exposition is said and the dialogue, that you can watch it and every important piece is restated by a character. So while it will inform you greatly to have seen Rebels, because you'll be familiar with those characters, you'll know them better, you'll know their backstory, it will be a much more rich experience. I think narratively it still should make sense based on the exposition that they add. Now, if they don't do that, then I think they've done something wrong. It's kind of similar to like The Force Awakens, for example. You don't need to see the other Star Wars fans for The Force Awakens to make sense as a movie. It works as a standalone film. I think I would feel the same way about this series.
Yeah, I think Dave Filoni is conscious of this. I looked at some of the interviews he gave around Celebration, and he was asked this question a lot. And he said, like probably if you wanted to do like a quick sort of deep dive into Rebels, just watch season 4. That'll probably give you everything you need. But really, he said you should be able to dive right into it. And I think you're right, you're bang on to it, Chris. And because I think the key thing to remember is that you don't have to explain everything. You just have to convey the relationships between the characters. You have to convey that there's history there. And you can do that with a lot of implication and just with the way the characters interact with each other. You don't have to know every adventure that Ahsoka, Hera, and Sabine ever went on together to get what's going on in this show. You just have to understand that there is history there, that there's a deep trust. And a lot of that trust revolves around this guy, Ezra, who they're going to look for. And it's funny the way this show is set up. It's a very kind of classic setup, fairy tale setup, that's just kind of inversed, because instead of some knights going on a quest to save a princess, it's a couple of female warriors off to save some dude. Like it's that sort of classic setup.
Yeah.
And they've inversed it. And so you just need to know that Ezra was a Jedi who had a connection with these characters at one point, and then he went missing. You don't have to know all the specifics of what went down in seasons 1 to 4 of Rebels to get what's going on with Ahsoka, because Ahsoka is a new story with these characters. So I think I think, again, like Chris said, if the show does its job right, you'll be able to drop right in and watch the show.
Yeah.
And I feel like Obi-Wan, you could do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Star Raptor, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So with the Mandalorian verse already, I mean, you look at the characters that came from animation. You look at Bo-Katan. You look at the novels like Cobb Vanth. You look at the comics like Black Chrysanthemum and Book of Boba Fett. Like they've been doing that the whole time, and I think they've been doing a really good job with bringing in these characters that a lot of us already know their backstories of, and they're just like simplifying just what we need to know about those characters. And the fact that Ahsoka has already appeared in two different seasons of shows, we already know who that is. It's not just like we're getting blindsided by, oh, we're having a separate show called Ahsoka, this character over here. Like she's already been injected into the DNA. So now that we're already familiar with the character, we have an entry to figure out what her story is. She already has a bit of, okay, where's Thrawn? We already kind of have an idea of what this could be about. So I think they're going about it the right way. And just like you said, Dominic, it's just mainly just giving us some information, but also like Joel Davis is saying in the chat, you want to show, don't tell. You don't want to have like a 5-minute exposition where it like takes the pacing down and just sit there and explain things either. So exactly.
Yeah.
I think everything you guys are saying is correct. I think Filoni's cognizant of this, and I think if he's written in it well, and with any story, like we've talked about this with literally anything, it's just like literally anyone at any point could just pick a random, not even a season of television, not even a movie, but like an episode of television, and go like, oh, I just turned this on and I'm watching this. I'm watching, the Jedi from The Mandalorian season 2, and you're just like, well, what's going on here? Well, it's Ahsoka, it's Din Djarin, and all this kind of stuff, and you'd be confused, but ultimately you should be able to kind of get the gist of like the story. I think it also, in my experience, and this is some as I've my only kind of test audience that I have in my vicinity is my parents, and so I'm always seeing stuff through their eyes, and I always kind of gauge their thing of like, it kind of depends on your attitude and your kind of approach to the whole thing in the first place, because they're keenly aware of, it's like Star Wars is massive and they've only seen like this one little slice of it. They've seen The Mandalorian, they've seen the movie, but they know there's other stuff, and they know because I've told them like everything's connected, all these books and comics and whatever. And it can be daunting when you're coming into this going like, oh, well, I know other stuff's happened. I know there's this other show, but I didn't see it. And they're assuming they're going to be confused. They're assuming that I needed to watch that thing to understand this, when in truth, what we're saying right here is true, is that you don't have to, but you can have these certain things like, oh, who's this Ezra guy or whatever else. Is like, no, just chill out. Just listen to what they're saying. They'll tell you who Ezra is. They'll tell you who Sabine is. It'll all kind of make sense if you just pay attention to what they're giving you in the dialogue. But
yeah, I think Ben, if I can just jump in here, I think Andor did a really good job at this. Now, granted, Andor is not coming off of 4 seasons of animated show, but it did a really good job at just sort of dropping you into the storyline, introducing you to the characters, giving you a sense of who they are and what their relationships are to one another, and then saying, and here we go, and going with the story. And again, I think that, like you're saying, Ben, there's sometimes an artificial barrier to entry that gets put up around Star Wars of, you need to know this and you need to know that, and you got to keep up with this, you got to keep up with that. That doesn't exist for other franchises. Whereas you could really just go into any movie or show and figure out the key, and once you get the key relationships, everything else is just gravy. And I always go back to this. I go back to Rogue One, because if you read the Rogue One tie-in novel Catalyst, that opening scene between Galen and Krennic has so much, like, it's so loaded with history and moments that you read about in the book that you're seeing the results of that play out on screen, and reading the book really enhances that scene and all this stuff. But if you haven't read the book, you still get everything you need to know from that scene. You know that there's history between these two. You know they used to work together, and that Galen split from Krennic, and that Krennic's been searching for him. That's what you need to know. That's what you need to get. and the movie conveys that to you really, really well, really, really concisely, really, really quickly. And so I think Filoni, if he's wise, which we believe he is, I think he will set up the series in that way.
I mean, he's kind of a smart guy, maybe. I don't know.
He knows what he's doing. He knows a thing or two. Thank you, Ali Kenobi, for the question. Very good one. Let's go back to Super Chats. Got another one from Joel. Joel says, the more distance we get from Mando season 3, the less I like the season. Overall, my score would be a 6 out of 10. Dropped the ball on the Dark Saber arc 2. Yeah, well, I guess we're 2 months away, 2 months removed, 1 month removed, month and a half removed. I don't know. It's been a while since season 3 wrapped. How are we feeling? Do we agree with Joel that it's gotten worse with time, or maybe you think it's gotten better, or think it's stayed the same?
I haven't had much time to think about this since the last time I had an opinion about this. It's not been that long since this came out.
I literally haven't thought about it. Like I don't like I do this thing where just like if I don't have something or I have mixed feelings about something, I kind of just block it out. I just really don't put a lot of thought into it. And then I'll remember it and I'll be like, oh, I like that bit. I like that bit or whatever else. And the other day I was thinking about the Navarro episode, The Pirate, which is I think the best episode of the season. I'm like, that episode was great. I really like that episode. Like that's my most recent like opinion on Mandalorian season 3. Like that episode was good. I don't remember the other stuff, but that was good.
Yeah. Here's the biggest thing I could say about it. I agree. Like usually, if I'm thinking about something a lot, I like it. Obviously, like Andor that ended. I was thinking about that for like weeks afterwards. Like, oh, that was so great. Yeah. A good example for Mando season 3 is I was watching Mandalorian with my mother every week. I would go over and watch, and all that, and after having been at Celebration and on vacation, obviously we weren't watching these things again every week. And I've still yet to watch the last 3 episodes. Whether she asked me like every week, oh, we gonna watch this? I was like, yeah, when I get a chance. Like it's not even really a priority for me anymore, which is really bad as a Star Wars fan for me to say, because like usually I'm chopping at the bit with Star Wars. I'm like, yeah, let's watch it, or let's do this, whatever. I'm just like, it's so on the back burner for me, priority wise, that yeah, I guess I really just didn't like that season, if that's the case.
Yeah. For me, I still stand roughly where I was when season 3 ended, which was it was good but not great. There were great elements in it, but it never quite stuck the landing in the ways that I think we were hoping it would. Again, there were parts that did, but overall came up a little bit short. And I was thinking, we've had with Star Wars shows, we've been really lucky in the last year or so that the finales have been so strong. I go back to Obi-Wan Kenobi in that final episode. Andor, every episode of that was incredible. I think about Andor more than I think about any other Star Wars right now. The Bad Batch, those that 2-part finale, just tremendous. And the season 3 finale was, again, good but not great. Solid, did the job, wrapped up the storylines in a way that was satisfactory to me, but it didn't blow me away the way the other ones did. And that's sort of how I feel about the season as a whole. All right, let's go back to the Discord comments for the next one. What do we got here? How about this one from Vlad Sander? Vlad Sander says, here's my question. This may be a loaded question, but do y'all think that the announced new Jedi Order with Rey will pull any ideas, characters, or events from the Legends series?
Yes.
Any specifics?
Everything pulled from the Legends series that ends up in any of the stuff that's a new Jedi Order that has origins in the Thrawn trilogy potentially could end up in the Rey film, because the Thrawn trilogy stuff might end up in the Dave Filoni film.
So
they're cousins.
I'm trying to connect the red dot.
Exactly.
Here.
Yeah.
I got my
convoluted.
red twine out.
Yeah.
So you think what happens in Dave Filoni's movie might affect the Rey movie in
Yeah.
ways, specific or nebulous.
Because I think that it was shown that, at least with the sequels, they weren't going to really pull anything out of Legends. There's just really basic similarities. Like, you could say there's a basic similarity between like Ben Solo and Jason Solo, for example. There's a basic similarity between Jaina and Rey, but they're very basic. It's just like, so I think I think it's much more clear that Filoni and Favreau are pulling things more directly out of the post ROTJ expanded universe. Like, for instance, Pelion, for example, is a huge, thing with that. And that's not just into that series, but that's into other elements of Star Wars too, like the animated stuff. So I think that if there are things that are common between New Jedi Order and the Thrawn trilogy, then by just proxy, you might end up with some of those in the Rey movie because Filoni decided to add them into canon through his stuff. So, for instance, I haven't read the New Jedi Order series. Like, I've read the Thrawn trilogy, so I can only make assumptions about what carries over. Like, for example, I assume that Mara Jade is in the New Jedi Order because she's introduced in the Thrawn books. And so things like that, like major things like that. So, for instance, I don't think that Mara Jade would end up in the Rey movie unless Filoni decided to put her in canon. But if he did, I think she would have to. So it's all on Filoni, basically. Filoni's the gate. He's the one that decides what gets pulled in from Legends and what doesn't. Other people don't seem to be doing that.
Aside from Leslie Headland.
Yes, in her era.
In her era.
Yes, I am talking about different eras there. Yes, you're right. But in that era, yes, Leslie is. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Ben, Star Raptor, any thoughts?
I would say just one thing, and maybe this isn't uniquely EU, but just the general idea that the EU took and ran with just that Jedi can love people and get married and have families and do that, and the whole way of the Jedi having to be celibate and can't have relationships should be bygone. And because like, if we're looking at this as like, it's Star Wars and we're talking a lot about George Lucas here, like George Lucas was always adamant about like Star Wars is a soap opera. It's a family soap opera. And just like, I would like to see a Rey Skywalker in this new movie who has a spouse and kids and stuff's happening. And there's a new Skywalker family being developed, and there's new Skywalker family shenanigans, and there's all kinds of crazy stuff happening, and who knows what's happening. But just the idea that is like, that archaic way of thinking is bygone, and like we can have some really interesting, that would be really interesting storytelling, just to the fact, not just in movies, but in comics and books and TV shows and whatever else would be great.
Yeah.
I think. Oh, go ahead, Dominic.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Chris.
I was gonna say, I haven't really read a lot of Legends in the post Return of the Jedi era, except like Chris, I read Thrawn trilogy like 20 years ago. But I like the idea of, I think this is the New Jedi Order with the Yuzong Vong, right? Like, this is a threat that is not the typical Empire-esque threat that is just soldiers in a political kind of positioning of control of the galaxy. What about something from another area of the galaxy? What if it's the Grisk? What if it's some kind of organic type of army, or utilize organic weaponry or something like that, which would be like so artistically different design wise, that would be very striking to be like, oh, this is new Star Wars. Like, yeah, we got the Force Awakens, we've seen a lot of that, usual kind of imagery from what we got in the original trilogy. Let's go for something wild here. We're gonna have these completely monstrous looking beings, but we're gonna have Jedi, and I'm hoping for something like on a different scope and imagery level like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I think it would be cool just in terms of like Easter eggs, or things that are, one tier up from Easter eggs, to have some characters from the Jedi of the new Jedi Order, like Jedi Council. If Rey has a Jedi Council, that you could have like Kip Duron or Koran Horn or even Kyle Katarn on there. I think that would be fun. Yeah, cast some actors that look like them, give them bit roles in the story. I think that would be cool. But I think like you guys have been saying, like something that alludes to a Vong like threat being out there. I think this movie has to be a standalone story, but I would like to see the seeds laid for what the post-sequel trilogy big storytelling will be, big storyline will be, and some kind of extra galactic threat that's looming out there that there are hints of in this movie that could be picked up on in an interlocking series of movies and shows and books and comics, all working together towards the same end point, sort of like combining the High Republic with the Mandoverse, like that sort of, those sort of strategies of, take what they're doing on the publishing side in the High Republic and what they're doing on the screen side with the Mandoverse, and smashing them together to create something massive like that. A really multimedia storytelling events that go across 3, 5, 7, 10 years. That tells that story. I'd like to see the seeds of that laid in there, be that the Yuzon Vong or something else. So whether or not that's specifically drawing from Legends or not, I don't know. That's an idea that's been out there for a long time, even going back to the original Marvel comics back in the 80s, when they were wrapping up that storyline. When they wrapped that up, they had been kind of alluding to this idea of doing an extra galactic threat. Had Marvel continued producing comics past 1986. So this idea has been out there. So I'd love to see that on screen. And so I'd like this to be kind of the Iron Man. This movie could be kind of the Iron Man 1 of the next phase of massive Star Wars multimedia storytelling. All right, let's do another super chat. We got one more of those from Joel. Joel says, I'll just add, I heard that Jeff Snyder, who got Filoni and Lindelof correct, said today that the Rey film is starting filming in April 2024. Would make sense for that would make sense for a May 2025 release date. So maybe Jeff's info is correct if you're assuming that's the release date. Or maybe they're still going to shoot it then. I mean, the script can't be worked on right now, so
That's pretty soon for that fact. So it must have been pretty close to complete or something.
Yeah, which I think it was, but they still, I'm sure, want to do more passes at it. They want to get Peaky Blinders guy to have another go, but that would be very exciting. I'd love to be sitting here in under a year's time and be looking at a StarWars.com article with a picture of a slate somewhere in the desert that says, Star Wars New Jedi Order written on it.
No desert. This one is devoid of this. No more deserts.
No, it has to be in the desert, Ben. Otherwise, it's not Star Wars. I tell you.
That would be just like Lucasfilm to go to the desert, hire a crew to go to the desert and pretend they're filming a movie, even though there's no desert scenes in the movie. Just to throw us off.
Do it. Yeah. So exciting. That's very exciting. And hopefully true. And this guy, Jeff Snyder, he's gotten a lot right lately. He's kind of been the preeminent Star Wars scooper of late. All right, we got some more Discord questions. A lot of Discord questions about Outlaws. So let's get into those. Dan Grievous, our old buddy Dan Grievous.
Yeah.
Great to see Dan back in April at Celebration London. Dan actually shot a paparazzi style video of me and Kieran walking the floor because we were walking along, and then we saw the running of the one way out cosplayers, and we stopped to film it. And then Dan sent me a video a few hours later of me stopping and filming the video, filming the One Way Out guys. So shout out Dan. Dan says, "Dear SWU crew, which pre-existing planets, canon and legends would you like to see in Star Wars Outlaws?
Cool.
Thank you, and may the Force be with you."
I'll start off with this one here.
Yeah, take it away.
I've been waiting on this one because this is the planet I've been wanting to see in a game, especially like this. Give us Nar Shaddaa. Like, we haven't seen it in canon yet. It's been in the Old Republic, the game. It's been in the comic books, but I want to see an on-screen representation of Nar Shaddaa, especially after playing Jedi Survivor, starting off on the lower levels of Coruscant with how beautiful that looked with the neon lights and all that, and just the ambiance. Like, imagine just being a smuggler. You can't have a scoundrel smuggler type of game without being on a citywide like metropolis type of planet, because that's like the vibe. That's like the Blade Runner dystopian kind of vibe that you're going to have your bounty hunters and all the ne'er-do-wells in the galaxy. So I'll say that, and I'll have another one too. I'll also add, I want to put Batu in there. I think that would be a good one for this game. There's a lot of great wildlife and stuff. You can go outside of Black Spire Outposts, explore around there. Then you have a lot of the smugglers are always ending up there. So I think that's a really good hot spot to be.
I think it would be really funny if they put Batu in there and like you just couldn't get into Black Spire Outpost. No matter how hard you tried, just that part you couldn't get into. There'd always be someone at the entryway going, no, tickets, please, or something, just so that remained special. But yeah, that would be terrific. Batu would be a lot of fun. Because I'm still in the midst of reading High Republic Phase 2, I've been thinking a lot about Irem and Iranos. So I think that would be fun to see those planets years and years later, and to see what's going on there. Ben?
Yeah, I agree with about Nar Shaddaa. Joe mentioned it in the chat as well, or no, Hada. And then I can never get enough of Coruscant. They better go there. Or Imperial Center. It would be actually cool to see it as Imperial Center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben?
I'm thinking Clone Wars Deep Cut, Zygeria. I think.
Oh,
really
yeah.
Because I'm just thinking of because Star Wars Explained put out a good video, and he was kind of spitballing ideas for like different planets. So we know that we know Tatooine's in it. We know Akiva's in it. There's a few other planets.
Kajimi's in it.
Kajimi's in it, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So kind of like the theme is like criminal underworld type planets, and like the whole idea of like Zygeria was getting back on its feet during the Clone Wars. What happened after that? And obviously the Empire is going to want them to thrive, and at least going to let them thrive. What happens then, and what kind of like that could be really interesting to see what that plan is going. Because I mean, it's really just a cool looking planet anyway, kind of this Egyptian inspired type of thing, and a bunch of cat people. That's real cool. Like I'd love to see those in kind of a live action style. We haven't seen those yet, I don't think so. And just exploring that as like I could see that as being like more of an Assassin's Creed type thing, where you're just kind of running through the streets and jumping off rooftops and stuff like that. They're really cool.
Yeah, be good. There's good answers out there.
And there's one planet in there that looked like Dayu in one of the trailers. That could be an interesting one.
That would be cool. All right, from Martin Ingelston, what are your thoughts on the time period of the game, it being set during the Age of Rebellion? Would you like to see it set in another era instead?
I think this is a perfect time period, as they say in a walkthrough. There's a video out there. The Ubisoft developers are talking about it, and I wanted to mention this earlier. And the fact that this is laid right in this very furtive storyline with the comics, with the War of the Bounty Hunters, written by Charles Soule of War of the Bounty Hunters. You have Crimson Reign, you have Hidden Empire, all sandwiched in between Empire and Return of the Jedi, and of course, the War of the Bounty Hunter story is the story of Boba Fett going from Cloud City to Jabba's palace, and it's not as easy as you would think, because then Kira and Crimson Dawn rise up from the ashes, and there's this huge event that's happening. So there has to be some kind of crossover that's happening. I gotta imagine that Charles Soule might have been tapped to be a consultant when they were developing the story, because if they're showing the story now, this thing had to have been worked on at least like maybe 2 years ago or something, which I'm Lucasfilm would not put it in this time period unless I had plans specifically. So I love the idea as we're seeing in that cutscene, very much reminding me of Solo, a Star Wars story, where on the barge or whatever the ship is called of Dryden Falls, you've seen like an Imperial officer was like getting killed, like in the room. Like there's these corrupt officials, and you see that in the gameplay. There's a corrupt official of the Empire that's dealing with this Mon Cala gangster, and you see that corruption, and the Empire is at this height, but they're also allowing criminal underworld people to kind of make these deals and do their own little things here and there. So I think this is great. And plus, whether or not you like it, whatever, like the original trilogy is going to get most people to buy this game. They're going to see the Star Destroyers on there. They're going to see the TIE fighters. They're going to see the X-Wings, and like that is Star Wars. So of course, from a marketing standpoint, it's a brilliant idea because you get everybody that loves that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I think you need stories set across all the different eras. And we've got the High Republic telling High Republic stories. We've got Acolyte that's going to tell stories in there. The Mandoverse is doing stuff post Jedi. Obi-Wan Kenobi and Andor did things in between in the dark times. Dawn of the Jedi is going to go way back. New Jedi Order is going to go way forward. We're kind of only things we're kind of lacking are things that are like during the original trilogy and during the prequel trilogy, and this scratches one of those itches, which is during the original trilogy. Now I'd love to see another story that is set in the Clone Wars or in the lead up to the Clone Wars. I think that would be a lot of fun, but I think they're serving every era well, and I think this falls into that as well.
Yeah, we're finally gonna hopefully get a story set in between Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. 'Cause every time I open up a new Star Wars book, Dominic, I'm always looking. It's like you see that blatant like
big
nothing in between there in the Del Rey books. I'm like, somebody get on that. Got to be a story there. Come on,
something. There's got to be something. There's like one comic book series and then the Padme novels, the Padme YA novels. That's it. We gotta get something in there.
Between 2 and 3, they just cram so much into those 3 years. And then between episodes 1 and 2, there's like 10 years. And there's apparently nothing happened in those 10 years.
Yeah. Darth Vader being trained as a Jedi and slowly having his idealism stripped away and becoming, he's being further drawn under the influence of Darth Sidious. Yeah, there's no good, interesting stories to tell in that era. No, I can't imagine anything remotely being good in there.
Give me a Jango Fett story.
Yeah.
Come on. Give me a Jango Fett story. Why is this guy so big? Why is he such a big deal? Why'd they base all these puns off this one guy? We know nothing about him. Give us that story already.
Love it. All right. Thank you, Martin. And thank you, Dan. And thank you, Vlad. And one more from Jesse Bennett. Jesse says, do you think the story of Outlaws will tie in directly with any major plot points of the time frame? Or will this be a fresh idea in the timeline? Star Raptor, you kind of commented on this already with, there's so much going on in the comic books right now. In the trailer, we do see Han and Carbonite. So I wonder if that is actually a plot point in the game, or if that's just kind of to, ground us in the era. I don't know. It could be interesting, but I think it would be fun to have some tie-ins, but I think overall this should be kind of its own thing.
Yeah, the only thing I keep hearing in the multiple videos I've seen with developers is they're always, saying, oh, the Pike Syndicate, you have the, can anybody still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just lost power on my monitor for a second there. That was weird.
Oh. Terrifying.
You got different syndicates that are referred to. The developers saying, oh, you got the Pikes, you have the Hutts, you have this new criminal syndicate we've developed for the game, and others. So just the fact that they're referencing others, like, oh, Black Sun comes to mind. Maybe the Crymora Syndicate comes to mind. Oh, maybe Crimson Dawn comes to mind. So it seems like it's just such an important story for that they have to branch out, have these other syndicates, and one of them could be a tie into that. Also, this is a big premise in the story. I want to ask you guys what you think it could be. Is the idea of this character coming to grips with this big mission, this big heist, and they keep referencing this is the biggest heist in the Outer Rim. I have two ideas that could be in this. One of them, maybe she's trying to get Han Solo and Carbonite like everybody else is at that time. But what if it's something a lot more important? What if she's trying to get like the Death Star 2 plans or something?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
You're muted, Dominic.
My bad.
I'm like, what bit is this?
Yeah. The bit was I had to cough, so I muted myself and then forgot. But I like the idea that, potentially, just a way to tie in with the comics and stuff, and it would explain why Han is in the trailer, would be, this could be the perfect time to pull off a heist, because the rest of the underworld is distracted with whatever the heck is going on over there. So they're distracted trying to catch the ultimate prize, which is Han Solo. And that's when Kay can go, hey, wait a minute. There's this other thing over here that's pretty interesting, pretty exciting, pretty valuable. Let's go try and steal that while everyone is looking the other way.
We know maybe she runs into some Bothans. I mean, and we know that there many Bothans died. So what was all about? That's actually something that, like, I genuinely don't know what happened there. Like we I don't know if that's been in Legends or whatever, but like I would genuinely be curious to know, like, what happened to those Bothans? What were they doing? What did they steal? What did they get? And how did they find out about Death Star 2? Like that's an interesting story there.
We don't actually know that they stole the Death Star plans, because
they just learned of its existence, I think.
Yeah, well, because Mon Mothma's line is, many Bothans died to bring us this information. Maybe they, just did the handoff. Someone else got the information and they did the handoff. There's workarounds, but it would lead to thousands.
There's a hallway. There's a hallway with a bunch of Bothans. One of them's got a disc, and Darth Vader walks in. He's like, "Is anybody else having deja vu?"
Oh man, yeah.
I feel like the story is just right there for this to happen, right? We're never going to get a movie probably to deal with this. Probably never going to get a series to deal with this. What's like the next big thing to introduce this that's bigger than a book, bigger than a comic book? You have a video game right here dealing with somebody that's a thief. So it's like, it just seems like it's almost too good for it not to happen, but I don't want to get my hopes up too much either.
Well, so I'm thinking about the old Project Ragtag that was supposed that Amy Hennig was writing and that was going to be made. And now I know Amy is back on board with Star Wars, so I'm going to try and avoid saying too much, because I have a feeling a lot of what was developed back then might be worked into this current project that she's working on that we don't know much about. But what I will say about Ragtag is that a major plot point in that story was that the Empire was using something from the remnants of Alderaan to create a weapon. And there was a character in that game, or that would have been in that game, who was like a survivor of Alderaan. He wasn't on the planet that day. So, and that was set in the same time frame. It was kind of an underworldy story. I kind of wonder if maybe some elements of that got shifted over to this. And, we don't know much about Kay. Maybe her backstory is that she was from Alderaan and that she wasn't there, and that she's a survivor. And, maybe she discovers that the Empire, or she's hired by the Empire to go and steal something vital, and learns that it is something to do with the ruins of Alderaan. And that could, set off quite the story. Because Amy Hennig is back involved in Star Wars, I think those kind of plot points are more likely to show up in her game. But who knows? Maybe she decided to do a page one rewrite, and someone else at Lucasfilm Games had that outline and said, "Hey guys, hey Ubisoft, hey Massive Entertainment, read this. Tell us what you think." And then they, started adapting it into their own thing.
Yeah, very interesting thought. I'm happy that you mentioned Amy Hennig, Dominic, because there was another big story that happened this week, or at least I haven't seen many people talking about it, but it's official. It's from the guy's words, is Matt, from the director of 1313, he literally said that he got tapped by Amy Hennig to be the director on her game now at Skydance Studios. So in my head, I'm imagining that whatever this game is, it's going to be a amalgamation of 1313 and Project Ragtag combined together. I'm like, this is going to be an amazing game whenever the heck we see this one.
Yeah. I found this story that you're talking about. Yeah, 1313 director Dominic Robillard, good name, has joined up. Yeah, he just posted it on his LinkedIn. Wow. Big news from LinkedIn.
Yep.
The game designer for Skydance, or the game director for Skydance Media's or New Media's Star Wars game. Oh, that's hilarious. Hilarious. I would, of all the places,
took a little a jog up in their hits because they got all Star Wars fans going over there to see what's going on.
Yeah, you'd think if Star Wars news is going to break on social media, it'll be on Reddit or it'll be on Twitter or maybe Instagram. Nah, LinkedIn has the scoops. Man, hilarious. All right. That's it. That's what we got for Ask the SWU. So again, shout out to Ali Kenobi, Dan Grievous, Martin Ingelston, Vlad Sander, Jesse Bennett, and Joel Davis for your contributions here. Some good questions. Some good questions this week. Matthew Hardy in the chat has dropped this helpful list of potential Jedi Masters in the New Jedi Order movie.
Nice.
We'll run through them here. It's got Rey, Finn. I feel like those two. We definitely know Rey. Feel like Finn's a pretty safe bet as well. Korra and Horn, again, pulling from Legends. That'd be kind of cool. Ezra Bridger. I feel like Ezra kind of runs into the same problem with the sequel trilogy that he does with the original trilogy, which is where the hell was he? And, who knows? Maybe at the end of the Mandoverse movie, he'll jump on another Purgle and disappear for another 15 years or something. Jason Syndulla, son of Hera and Kanan. Jai Kell, Dara Leonis, a couple of other Rebels connections in there. Cal Kestis still out there, as far as we know. Marin, again, as far as we know, drawing from the Jedi video game series. Kata Akuna, not familiar with that character.
Oh, I know. That's a little bit of a spoiler.
That's a spoiler. We can't talk about that one.
Okay. All right. No further comments, Your Honor. Grogu. I feel like Grogu's still a little young to be a Jedi Master, but you never know. Gunji, would love it. Love that. Karnuk Sin. Not.
He was from Force Collector.
Force Collector.
Force
Okay.
Collector.
Elia from Star Wars Resistance. And Tamiri Blag, aka Broom Boy.
I need a clarification. I know this was going around a little bit. Is it true that Korra Horn is canon? Like, where did that is? I heard that was from Obi-Wan or something. The Obi-Wan show. Like, how did that come up?
So one of the names, I believe, I'm shooting from the hip here, but I remember someone saying that Korra Horn or one of his relatives had their name engraved on the walls of that hidden path place when the place that Obi-Wan and Leia go with Tala. And there's also a bunch of other names, including Seer and Quinlan Voss, obviously, but like Korra Horn is canon because of that little graffiti there.
All right,
here's Star Wars X-Wing second edition is why he's canon.
Now, here's a story from Screen Rant, so it's accurate. Headline: Obi-Wan secretly made an EU Jedi canon. Open brackets, and there's a Rogue Squadron link. Close brackets.
Yeah.
This article contains spoilers for Obi-Wan Kenobi episodes 2 and 3. Here's the reading from the article. Obi-Wan Kenobi secretly made a Jedi from the old expanded universe canon and potentially set up his role in the upcoming Rogue Squadron movie in 1991. Blah 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 blah. Made this the whole backstory about Korra Horn, where he came from, turning expanded universe into Legends. Way to bury the lead here, guys. Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 2 secretly introduced an important member of Luke Skywalker's Jedi Order in the expanded universe, the Corellian Jedi Korra Horn. In one scene on the planet Daiyu, It saw the con man Haja arranged for a mother and her son to flee to Corellia, and dialogue implied that they were in danger because the boy was force sensitive. Credits confirmed that the child was named Koran.
Oh my gosh, I gotta go and watch that
I remember
episode.
This. I remember
now.
this.
I gotta go watch that.
Apparently, there was a leak that the call sheet named the mother character as Niche or Naish, Nyche, which is the name of Koran Horn's mother in Legends. So there you go.
So I mean,
and one more. Sorry, Ben. It continues because
Okay.
on as you were referencing on the wall in the graffiti, Orabesh text named several Jedi, including Valen Halcyon, Koran Horn's father in the expanded universe.
Okay.
So
I
that's
wasn't
what
crazy. I wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
I didn't imagine that part.
There it is.
So whoever's like writing the graffiti on the walls and also naming the side characters for the extras is a big X-Wing fan. Like they're a big EU fan, obviously.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that'll play into anything, or maybe they're setting something up. Maybe they're actually doing something there.
I mean, it's probably sort of similar to what happened on Andor with all of the all the stuff in Luthen's shop, where Tony Gilroy would write in this, or the writers would write in the script, there's cool Jedi artifacts in the background, and then the props department would create stuff that references Mortis, holocrons, things like that, and then put them in the background. And I wonder if whoever was coming up with the background actor names just was like, what if we called this character Koran? What if we gave it that his mother, the Koran Horn's mother's name, and just kind of worked in some stuff just to have a little bit of fun. All righty. Well, there it is. I think that is going to just about wrap things up. I think if I can pull the music up here, just taking my sweet time getting the music going. There it is. Let's wrap things up for this week.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the show. We'll be back same time, same place with another episode next week. But until then, please follow us at the SWU on social media. Star Raptor, Chris, thank you so much for guesting tonight and offering your insight into the tie-in materials.
Oh yeah, it's always fun to talk about a new game trailer, new gameplay for a game, to talk about the story, to talk about the characters, talk about just initial reactions and how I'm feeling. And like I said, this game is set in a sweet spot for me. It's in that Shadows of the Empire feel, that era, maybe connecting to some cool Star Wars comics I've read over the last couple of years. So I can't be more excited to jump into hyperspace and visit some pretty cool locations. But it was also fun chatting about the different movies and being utterly humiliated live on the internet for my knowledge of not knowing anything about Star Wars, apparently. So that was really fun.
That game was hard.
But thanks so much for having me. If anybody wants to see any of the content I produce, it's on youtube.com/StarRaptor. Over there, we also have a podcast. We have been now shooting that live on Sundays at 7 p.m. called Outer Rim Transmission. So yeah, I'll be talking more about Star Wars Outlaws over there.
Nice. Check it out.
At Star Raptor is where you can find Chris on social media. Dominic, thank you so much for hosting too.
Oh, it's my pleasure. As always, great fun humiliating you all with this game that I discovered. Well,
I mean,
except for
somebody got out of playing it by, orchestrating the game.
I'm humiliated that I missed one very obvious one. So, if that's any consolation.
Oh,
look, if one of you guys wants to make up a game or find a game, I would very happily play it. But I'm the only one who's brought games to the show of late, so I can't play them.
Well, if you and Hannah would be on the show at the same time, which I can't remember the last time that happened, we have
that was 3 weeks ago.
I think
maybe.
we were busy with like a bunch of news that week or something.
Yeah.
We couldn't do it. But yes, we are very eager to hear you try to name all the U.S. states.
Yes. Yes,
That's
that
the
is
thing.
gonna be
That's the
really
thing that's going to
fun.
happen. We haven't
It's
forgotten
gonna
about
be
it.
good. I wish I could have played this game because I loved watching the videos and like playing along in my head
Yeah.
because I definitely wasn't gonna duet the videos. But I enjoyed playing along, so I wish I could have played on the show. So I don't know if one of you guys wants to make up another level, make the ultra hard level or something. I'll go for it. But great
Challenge
fun.
accepted.
All right, Ben, bring it next week. I'm here next week. I'm not missing. This is, I'm gonna do
Oh,
two
next
shows 2
week.
weeks in a. Gonna do two weeks in a row for a change. It'll be nice. But yeah, great fun breaking down Outlaws. Great fun talking about movies and great fun answering all the questions from the Discord and the super chats. Been a great show. Can't wait to do it again in 7 days' time.
Follow Dominic on social media at DominicJ25. And Ben, thank you so much for hosting.
Oh, this was an absolute pleasure as always. And who knows what's coming up next week? Maybe we will review Dial of Destiny. Who knows? We have nothing else to talk about.
Will it even be out next
it's
week?
not out. It's not out then. It's not out until the next week. So we'll see. But yeah. Speaking of non-Star Wars things, I'll go ahead and mention my other podcast, IPC, because we are coming back. We will be back. Usually I don't mention this beforehand, but I'll mention it now. This upcoming Wednesday, you can catch us live. Should be on Mixlr and maybe some other places. But yeah, we're going to be talking about I keep saying Into the Spider-Verse. It's Across the Spider-Verse, which was a lot of fun. And then also Secret Invasion comes out that day. So we're going to be it's going to be real crunch to watch it. The first whatever episodes are going to be releasing that day and then talk about it that night. So it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be great. And looking forward to that. So definitely go tune in for that. And Joe will kill me if I don't mention this. So next week, next Friday, on the Discord, we'll have another movie night, and we all actually will be watching Raiders of the Lost Ark. So in preparation for Dial of Destiny. So yeah, definitely go tune in, especially if you're a certain someone who hasn't seen that movie. It might be fun to come by, maybe. I don't know. Just looking at you, Hannah. So we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Make sure you check that out, and make sure you follow Ben on social media at Ben Hart with no E. You can find me at Seek3PO. You heard about the Discord. Remind everyone to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, to subscribe if you are listening to the show on your favorite podcast app. Check out cultureslate.com/store where you can get the shirt that I am wearing and lots of other cool stuff. We should have some Ahsoka stuff coming out soon over there, so stay tuned for that. And that's it. So we'll be back next week. But until then, for Chris and Ben and Dom, my name is Chris, and may the Force be with you.
I thought it was going to fade out. Forgot to click the fade out button. Oh well.
Yeah, there was a
it's a wrap.